Thank you. Calling to order tonight's executive session of the Methuen School Committee. It'll be held here at the Media Center at 5:41. We're going to call to order. Madam Secretary?
Present.
Sorry, let's start over, shall we? Member Keegan.
Present.
Member McCarthy.
Present.
Member Willett. Okay. Vice Chair DeZoglio.
Yes.
Mayor Beauregard. And Member Donovan, present, and Member Abayas.
Present.
Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Member Keegan, seconded by Member Sorois. Any questions about the agenda?
No.
No one's on Zoom. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Let's stand for the flag salute, please. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Anyone here for public participation? All right, I'll close public participation. We're going to go into executive session in a moment. I'll need a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And this is on the interim superintendent. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
So move goes to Member Donovan, second goes to Member Sorois. Any questions? I don't have anyone on Zoom. All those in favor? say
Aye.
Any nays? Ayes have it. We will go into executive session and then we'll come back out to adjourn and go into our next meeting. Thank you. Good evening. We're coming out of executive session, and we're going to vote to end that meeting here now. But first, Madam Chair, Madam Secretary, do you mind taking roll call?
Sure. Member Keegan?
Present.
Member McCarty?
Present.
DeZoglio?
Yes.
Beauregard?
Here.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Willett?
Yeah.
Oh, he's there.
Donovan is here, and Baez.
Present.
Great. Motion to adjourn the executive session.
So moved. Second.
Keegan, Soroyce,
Yes.
again.
Sorry. Parliamentary procedure.
I know. Keegan,
Yes.
McCarthy,
Yes.
DeZoglio,
Yes.
Beauregard,
Yes.
Willett,
Yes.
Donovan, yes, and Baez.
Yes.
Great. So that meeting is adjourned. I'm going to go straight into our special meeting of the Methuen School Committee being held tonight, June 29th at 6:08 p.m. in the Media Center here at Methuen High School, 1 Ranger Road, Methuen, Mass. As always, you can watch live on Channel 6 Comcast and Channel 31 Verizon. All business sessions and workshop sessions are televised and recorded. Please note that our executive session earlier was not televised or recorded. Digital meeting packets materials can be found linked to the agenda posted on the school committee webpage of the Methuen Public Schools website. Calling to order, Madam Secretary, please take roll.
Okay. Vice Chair DeZoglio.
Yes.
Member Donovan Grassi, yes. Member Baez.
Present.
Member Keegan.
Present.
Member McCarthy Soroyce.
Present.
Member Willett.
Yeah.
And Member Beauregard.
Here.
Thank you. Just for everyone watching tonight, Mayor Beauregard is virtual, and Member Willett is also virtual. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second to Member Keegan. Is there any amendments or, yes, Member Keegan?
I'd like to amend the agenda to move the policies to the end, to the very last thing.
So before 6 or after 5?
Sorry, after 5 and before 6. So
Okay.
yes,
So-
exactly, right there.
So just for clarification,
Yes,
you would want 3 and 4 moved to after 5?
5, correct.
Okay, so we're moving 5 to after 2 to make it easier. And let's do a motion to move 5
Yes.
to after 2.
Yes, I would like to make that motion.
Perfect. Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
Second to Member Soroyce. Roll call, please. Oh, yeah, excuse me, is there any other amendments?
We want to get rid of.
Yes.
Yep.
I'd like to amend the agenda to remove number 2 from the agenda.
Okay. So it'll be 1, 5, 3, 4, 6.
Yep.
There
Ready?
you go.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And that was Member Keegan and McCarthy? Okay.
Yep.
So, Vice Chair DeZoglio,
Yes.
Member Donovan Grassi, yes. Member Baez,
Yes.
Member Keegan,
Yes.
Member McCarthy Soroyce, Member
Yes.
Willett,
Yes.
and Mayor Beauregard.
Yes.
Great. Anything else? We'll motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Member Soroyce, then seconded by Member Keegan. Roll call, please.
Okay. Vice Chair DeZoglio.
Yay.
Donovan Grassi, yes. Member Baez.
Yes.
Member Keegan.
Yes.
Member McCarthy Soroyce.
Yes.
Member Willett,
Yes.
and Member Beauregard, Mayor Beauregard.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. That was approved as amended unanimously. All right, let's stand for the flag salute, please. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So we're going to go right into number 5, school choice for school year 2027, 2028. Member Willett, you have the stage.
So I'll be making a motion to reconsider, Mr. Vice Chair, if that's in order, as a prevailing side.
That's not what's on the agenda, Member Willett. This is saying for school year 27, 28.
Well, we can start the process of discussing, but I think there was some members that wanted to bring concerns to the table as well. So like that, I will defer to the other people that were advocating for school choice, and then I will recall my remarks towards the end.
So clarification, school year 27, 28 is a year from now.
No, I understand that, but there were some concerns from some of the members of the committee they wanted to bring to the table.
All right, is there anyone
Vice
here?
Chair, can I chime in with some context?
Sure, please.
Briefly. So, Member Willett had reached out to the superintendent and I about the idea of a reconsideration on his part regarding the vote on school choice for the year that is about to begin. And the superintendent had shared, and she can feel free to chime in, she had shared information about how the deadline for taking that vote for the upcoming school year per Massachusetts state law had come and gone. And so at this point, there's no change to be made for the upcoming school year. However, perhaps this is something to discuss well in advance of the following year. But this is simply, I think, a response to that indication about how the deadline had passed.
Okay.
So from my perspective, I would like to ask for an advisory from our legal counsel as well as an advisory from the city solicitor on this. And also a notice from from DESI on this as we proceed. Again, I'm going to be in favor of school choice in order to save jobs. So that was my modus operandi, was to save jobs, teachers' jobs. And I'm very concerned if the state is pigeonholing us, so to speak, and restricting us if we want to. And again, we're talking about still in June, and then you have July and August going into the September school year, that we cannot engage in reaching out to neighboring communities for school choice in order to save teachers' jobs. Now, I think the Senate is sending a package as part of the conference, and we await those numbers. And again, I applaud the mayor on the GIC, but that's going to be in January. So I'm interested in saving as many jobs as possible. If we can forestall terminating any jobs from the process, I'd be in favor of that. But I thought that a limited experiment working with the school choice colleagues, and since we already were victorious, the mayor, the vice chair, and myself, especially myself advocating for the GIC for 25 years, I wanted to pivot to school choice because I've had conversations with the mayor and member Baez in keeping with the quorum and open meeting law, and again, advocating for school choice. And then the superintendent was aware of those conversations. I thought it was a compromise to do school choice. Now I'll defer to the superintendent and her legal interpretation, but respectfully, I would still ask for a legal advisory from our legal counsel in conjunction with the city solicitor and reaching out to DESI. And if it's something that has to be corrective legislation, I definitely would like to entertain that, because the local level has to be given greater tools in order to save jobs and to make sure services are provided. We're doing a GIC and we're doing constellations, and we're working with our partners on the city council. I thought school choice, even a limited experiment, I thought the merits outweighed the disadvantages, and there was going to be some compromise, or maybe at the next budget session with Member Baez and I having a conversation about potentially having a truancy officer to strengthen residency enforcement. So Member Baez was operating in good faith. I believe the mayor was operating in good faith. I'll defer to the superintendent, but I'm also seeking that legal advice. So that's my perspective. Thank you.
Madam Superintendent.
Thank you. Mr. Willett did share with me his wish to reconsider. What gave me pause was that we needed to have the hearing followed by the vote by June 1st of the preceding school year. And also there's some language that states that by July 1st, we would need to send to DESE our students who are out of district but will be attending Methuen Public Schools for that school year. I thought the idea was that Member Willett was suggesting that we start brainstorming early for the following school year and spend the fall thinking about what that would look like, as we're simply out of time for this coming school year.
Thank you. And just for clarification, didn't we take 2 votes on that? Yep.
Yes.
So after it fails twice,
The first didn't follow the hearing, so there was some question as to the validity of that vote. So we again put it on the agenda this time following a hearing, and then proceeded with the vote prior to the June 1st deadline.
okay. All right. Member Bias.
Thank you, Mr. Vice, through you. So I can confirm that Member Willett and I have had discussions about to the extent of wanting to save jobs, looking at no matter what number the state comes back with to us, that we will be, unfortunately, perhaps losing some positions. And so we have discussed the idea of school choice as an opportunity to create revenue. And so I am also wary of the procedures that we have taken place in the past, and so the law is pretty clear. The school committee must have a public hearing on or before June 1st to discuss a possible change in the school choice policy. And as the Madam Superintendent correctly advised, Chapter 76, subsection 12B, section E, refers to the first day of July as a reporting date for the numbers of enrollment in out-of-district students. However, in that same section, section E, the state also requires the district to report numbers in October and in April. So because school choice is an open enrollment, not tied down to July, the thought is that a school choice program would probably be 0 enrollments in July, but perhaps 20 in October and maybe more in April, depending on the availability of seats determined by the administration. So again, by May 1st, the superintendent's administration team is supposed to report availability of seats, tuition, et cetera. By June 1st, the committee is bound to have a public hearing on the matter, notwithstanding specific language on votes, but rather a public hearing. And the reporting numbers are in terms of an open enrollment, in terms of July, October, and April in that same subsections. So my perspective is that I urge my colleagues here on the school committee to reconsider their school choice vote in terms of saving jobs, having an opportunity here to reform the way that we do things here in Methuen for the better, for the fact that we can try and help our employees, our staff, and our faculty, our students in a way that is available to us now. Thank you.
So point of clarification, we can't do anything for 26, 27.
That's my understanding, because while we do report enrollment numbers at those times of years that Member Bias stated, those are our enrollment numbers of who we currently have in the district. I thought that the language was for the July 1st deadline that the out-of-district students needed to be reported by that date.
Can you get,
I haven't heard from many members of the committee on this except for Member Willett, so a lot of this discussion is new to me.
Okay, so if you don't mind getting a recommendation from Desi on if it's too late. However, we're not talking about 26, 27. As the chair of this meeting, that's not what the agenda states. It says 27, 28. So if we would like to talk about 27, 28, great. If not, I will move on. But what I will say is let's get our house in order first before we start inviting others in. Like, that's the one thing that needs to happen. Let's get our house in order, because we have a lot that could be done with our current student population that needs to get done first, then inviting other students to our district. Because if I had a chance, if I'm a student living in, let's say, Georgetown, that doesn't want to go to Georgetown High or the tri-school system, if I could pick Newburyport over Methuen, I'm probably picking Newburyport. I'm not picking Methuen. And let's change that mindset. All right? Let's change that mindset first, because I don't hear anyone knocking at the door. All right? Let's fix the problem first. Our population is overwhelming in three of our 5 schools. All right? And if I really want to think about it, I would love, with like the 27, 28 year, or if we want to think about it sooner, is what if we did school choice with new residents coming into district? Like, how amazing would it be if I lived in the Timony or Tenny district, and I know my class size is going to be a little bit bigger, and the population's a little bit lower at the Marsh or the CGS, and I had the ability as a new student to potentially pick a school within Methuen to go to? Like, Lowell does that. Lawrence does it. If you move into the district, you can pick your school. I would love to look into something like that to help balance the population. And that also might help with certain housing markets. If I buy a house in the Timony district, I have the ability to go to a different school system through a lottery. How amazing would that be for the housing market in the Timony and the Tenny district? Vice versa, Marsh and CGS district. If I have a really good teacher over the Timony or Tenny, or the grades are better, or maybe, maybe I kind of want to go to the Tenny or Timony. If the opportunity is there, why not send myself there? Maybe we should look at our house first before we open the door.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Willett.
So, and all due respect to you, and this is something that I've been really racking my brain over for many years. I'm very strong with the residency enforcement advocacy. But what I've noticed is the demographic numbers are collapsing. Over the past X amount of years, we experienced roughly a 10% reduction in our student population. And just recently, because of national politics, regardless of someone's ideology, we're experiencing another decline in our student population. So we're not limiting or controlling the tide of outward migration from our school system. So like in another X amount of years, if we experience another 10% reduction, so we would have 20% in total over the last, let's say, 10, 15 years. That's not sustainable as a school system. Meanwhile, enrollment numbers are directly related to how much Chapter 70 money we receive. So every year it's going to be a spiraling death spiral of we're not going to have enough resources, and now we can do internal reforms. And again, I'm on board with having an outside consultant discuss redistricting and explore other possibilities, including what you're intimating tonight. But like, again, that would be an outside consultant that I would be in favor of. But I'm looking purely at the demographics, and the demographics are very damning. We've lost 10%, as reflected, I believe, in the cultural audit and in prior meetings with former Mayor Perry. It was a 10% reduction, and we're experiencing out-migration due to a number of state and national factors. So when are we going to be stemming the tide of out-migration and stemming the tide of enrollment declines? I'm not sure, but I need to explore as a duly elected member of the school committee in terms of saving jobs. Now, again, if we're going to approach the state and find out if we have any capacity to do a waiver, and based on a further reflection of what Member Baez indicated, that if we have any flexibility, if you're looking at different benchmarks in the calendar year of going into October for reporting numbers, then I think we need to, as a school committee, explore this along with other reform measures, unless the city council is going to step in. But then the mayor indicated that free cash is going to be frozen by a certain point. So our hands are tied. So like short term, I'm trying to save jobs. That's my modus operandi. Now, in terms of your grandiose redistricting dreams, again, I would be in favor of an outside consultant to help us guide through that process. I would not want the school committee itself to be manipulating that process based on my prior experience with redistricting and the trench warfare. So I'm not understanding, like, whatever we receive, again, you're right, the agenda item reflected the next school year, but I needed to have my voice heard without violating the open meeting law and doing back channels. The superintendent, I try to communicate as much as possible, and I spoke to the mayor and Member Baez in keeping with the open meeting law, because I was very concerned about saving jobs. Now, I'll sit down anytime with the state and say, listen, we need to have the tools to help with the school district that has declining enrollment. Now, again, realignment of schools, that should come for a professional consulting report. It should not emanate from the school committee. We're not the experts. We're not the professionals in that matter. So that would be it. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Member Donovan, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I just need a little clarification. Maybe Member Baez, you can help me out because you've been part of this conversation. So is this, it's not on the agenda. We're looking at next year according to the agenda, but then I probably shouldn't ask this question. Putting this on the agenda was the intent to discuss making school choice happen at some point in the upcoming school year? Even though it's not reflected in the agenda? I'm very confused about what this discussion is supposed to be about.
I've heard about redistricting in it now 3 times, but
So
it's not.
please.
So,
No,
well, from in my perspective.
Well,
the-
because apparently you had a discussion with Member Willett.
So,
I'd like to
in
hear.
my perspective, intra-school choice was also not on the agenda, and
Say
yet we
that
still
again?
had, I said intra-school choice
Intra,
was
right.
not on the agenda, yet it was discussed today as an
That's true,
idea.
that's
So,
true, yeah.
so there's that. But for me, school choice is school choice, where we are debating the policy of school choice, whether that be
But for
26.
this coming school year or for next year?
My
Because I've heard a little of both.
discussion has been about the benefits of school choice. I haven't said
Okay.
26, 27. I haven't said
Okay.
25, 26, or 26, 27, 27, 28.
Right.
I have talked about the merits of the policy.
Right.
from
Okay,
my
and I'm not asking
perspective.
your personal, no offense, not your personal opinion, not anyone's personal opinion, but what are we talking about right now? That's all. This year or next year? That's what's not clear to me. And I know we all have a thought, and I respect everybody's, but what are we doing right now? I'd feel better if I felt the ground underneath me to be a little firmer.
I think we're moving on, because everyone has their own opinion, and I'm sorry, intra-school choice, I said something about 27, 28. So if we're gonna get in a match back and forth, I'm gonna close discussion on this. Is there anything else about 27, 28? Because all I've said tonight, and anyone that's supposed to be talking about this is supposed to be talking about 27, 28. Anything about next year, put it on the agenda. We're not gonna let this meeting get out of control. Yes.
The only thing I asked, Mr.
Member Willett, you're out of order. I didn't call on you.
Okay.
Member Soroyce.
The only thing I would ask is that we wait till we see the October 1st number before we take a vote. I think it's a little early in the game to take a vote right now until we see the October 1st numbers. I mean, I'm on board with school choice, but I just would like to see the October 1st number before we decide on anything for the school year 27, 28. And I think if we look at that, I think in October, we'll have plenty of time to get everything together for the May, June, and July dates.
Member Willett, do you have something to add towards 27, 28?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair. I would just, again, just to re-emphasize that I'm seeking legal advisories from our legal counsel, from the city solicitor, and from DESI as to any possible waiver of the process. And then at a future meeting, we could put it on the agenda based on my opinion that we could do it. Because we've had other discussions that involve the necessity of legal advisories. So to say that we're not understanding what the agenda is, we're looking to reintroduce the concept of a discussion of school choice. Now, the vehicle tonight might not be that, but it doesn't preclude us from having a conversation, because we're talking about either the future or seeking legal advisories. They're all part of the same package. We're not taking a formal vote. I realize that based on what the superintendent's interpretation is. I just happen to ask for outside legal opinions on this and wondering if DESI will provide a waiver based on what Member Baez and I are interpreting from the law. That's it.
Yep. Madam Superintendent, will you be getting this request?
Yes, I already noted it.
Thank you. Please keep us updated on it. Moving on. We have the MASC Policy Review, Section 1 approval. We need to remove it from the table.
So moved.
Motion from Member Keegan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Member Soroyce. Roll call. Any discussion on the removing it from the table? Seeing none? Member Donovan, roll.
Vice Chair DeZoglio.
Yes.
Member Donovan Grassi, yes. Member Baez.
Yes.
Member Keegan.
Yes.
Member McCarthy Soroyce.
Yes.
Member Willett.
Yes.
And Mayor Beauregard.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to the actual review of it. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Member Baez first, Member Keegan seconded.
Okay.
Roll call.
Ready?
Yeah, discussion, sorry, discussion.
I have a question
Yeah.
quickly. Is this an approval for first read or second read at
This would be
point?
technically a second read,
Okay.
but because of some things, I would recommend a table at the end, but
Great.
you guys
Yeah.
could do whatever you
Okay.
want. But Member Baez, wherever you left off, if I recall, it was around,
Do we need to vote?
no, we're
We're in
in,
discussion.
we're in discussion.
Okay. I thought
We
you-
don't have to vote right now. We got the first and the second. We're going under Section A to review Section 1 changes. Member Baez, where did we leave off again? I apologize.
No worries. Thank you, Mr. Vice. We left off on IIB, class size. We were able to finish that in terms of letting people know that our recommendation is to remove this policy. So our next one would be IJ, and since most people have had the opportunity to look at these policies, I'll just be asking if anybody has any questions and trying my best to answer or refer to the other subcommittee members and Madam Superintendent to better answer those questions or appropriately discuss recommendations or amendments. For these next couple of policies, and I am speaking about specifically IJ, IJR, IJL, IJL E1, E2, E3, IJLA, and IJLA. Those policies, our subcommittee collectively are noting no recommendations at this time, leave as is. Those are all policies pertaining to instructional materials, library resources, and we will note that the subcommittee, in conjunction with another member of the committee and the superintendent, are working to diligently work through these policies in terms of specific language, compromises, and thoughtful debate to come back to us with a recommendation of their own. We believe at this time it is best to leave them as is until we hear back from those members. Again, those are policies IJ, IJR, IJL, E1, E2, E3, and IJLA.
So, Member Superintendent, do you have any comments on that before I ask if there's any questions about that? Because I see a lot of red here. And if we're not changing anything, I'm assuming then those red lines are not happening. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any comments, concerns? And that will continue to reflect in the current clean version, correct?
In our last, hopefully, it is my hope that my colleagues table this matter at the end, and then we're able to provide a new clean copy with changes made tonight
Yep.
and changes that obviously are reflected in our recommendations.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right, if I'm not seeing any comments, then I believe the next one in line is IJLA. Am I correct in that?
IJND,
ND, sorry, ND.
and that is
ND.
access to digital resources. Again, everybody has had the time to review, so I would just open it up to questions right away.
And this aligns, and just the one question I had with this one was, this aligns with our current technology policies, like on, like YouTube and access, I'm assuming too, to digital resources, that meets the policies need, member superintendent? Or the city mandate of not allowing social
Right.
media?
Yes.
Because I don't see that called out in this one.
So this is an example of policy language that points to the procedure,
Okay,
and the procedure would be what would outline all those pieces.
yep. All right, I'm good then. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, anything on the online team here?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Willett, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the chairman of the subcommittee, Baez, I had sent an email to his attention reflecting my concerns about the Children's Internet Act and promoting certain material online through our media center, and hopeful that notification to parents would be at a future consideration, either from the subcommittee or from the administration or from the full committee. I feel that we're exposing ourselves if we do not have a notification process that's strong to parents at home in terms of online material that's being promoted by the media center. So I've reflected that in an email to Member Baez, and then it was the social policy aspect of it that I had concerns as well. And when that opportunity arises, I would like to be able to speak on that as well. But I don't have the official policy with me, but I did review it previously.
Thank you, Mr. Willett. Anything else from the committee?
No.
Seeing none, Mr. Baez?
Thank you. Our next policy is use of technology instruction, file IJNDB. Any questions? If there are none, and none on Zoom world,
All yours to move on to IJNDC if there's no comment.
yes. So acceptable use of digital resources, this is recommended adoption. You could see that we have some red lines there. So we actually had a lot of discussion about, you know, what we expect our students to sign, especially if they're of a certain age, but I'll open it up to discussion. If not, so policy IJNDD, policy on social media. And Mr. Vice, through you, I know Member Willett has some concerns.
Mr.
So
Willett?
if I may, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for recognizing me through the chair to Chairman Baez of the subcommittee. The two items that I brought to your attention that I hope that either the subcommittee, the administration, or the full body will consider. Two items, I have concerns if an employee of the Methuen Public Schools at some point is peddling products or services that would profit them personally. So I'm concerned about that based on actions of certain employees or outside parties in the past linked to the Methuen Public Schools. And then secondly, in terms of dealing with any type of sexual activity. There is a process for termination as deemed necessary by the administration, but there is no specific language about referrals to outside law enforcement or to DCF. So in the context of the legislation, it needs to be filed on the Hill in terms of there's still consent between adults in the Methuen Public Schools and 16 and 17-year-old students in terms of sexual activity. There's a loophole at the state level. I think is a loophole potentially here of if it involves any type of sexual activity, indiscretion, inappropriate, potentially criminal, potentially a termination factor, that there's no specific language for referral to law enforcement or to referral to DCF. And I would just emphasize that that's something we should strongly advise, and that the committee as a whole should be on record that there should never be consent between employees, adult employees in the Methuen Public Schools, hypothetically, and students that are 16 and 17-year-old that would be under state law of a major loophole. I'm not saying it's occurring. We've been very vigilant, but hypothetically, I think we're talking about major loopholes that as a committee and as, just as parents and as elected officials, we should be very vigilant upon. So that's the only thing I can reflect to Member Baez, the subcommittee, the administration, the full body. Thank you.
If I may. Member Willett, in terms of your concerns that were brought up, so the selling products from faculty to students, we believe that it is best to have that as its own policy, especially since this section I, is about instruction. And so we have specifically noted that it's not an idea that we disregard. It's an idea that, in fact, we would like to find its place. But we believe that it's not best suited for this specific section. And in regards to your other concern, we defer to the procedures that are outlined in terms of referrals to DCF when it is appropriate and law enforcement when it is appropriate, specifically to the administration in terms of that those procedures are set in place in terms of policy versus procedure language, and would invite the acting superintendent to talk about, especially some of the red line here, why we chose to have accessibility language, specifically if you could talk about the new application that we have that we're very excited as a district to roll out, that will be useful in terms of explaining the practicality of this policy.
Sure. So what Member Baez was referring to is through the athletic department, and also it will be in fine arts for band and sports and clubs and the like. We are moving to an app that many districts use across Massachusetts, and one that is recommended by the Athletic Director Association. And the app provides a mechanism for athletes or participants and coaches or advisors to communicate, and then also provides the district the mechanism to oversee those communications, much like we do with talking points or email between a faculty member and a student. So that would eliminate the necessity for students to be communicating through cell phone, as this policy has recommended on E, notes that faculty and staff will not give out their cell phone number because they will no longer need to, because we have provided this app. And so what we're working on now, I know there are some teams that were piloting this toward the end of the school year. Mr. Ryan, who's our athletic director, and some of the administrators at the high school are putting together some expectations to roll that out for this coming school year.
Thank you for the context. Any other questions on this? Yeah.
I'm just curious. with, teachers may not friend or follow current students on social media. I know that happens. So I don't know how you enforce that. I don't know how you can enforce that. I mean, while we know it's not something adults should be doing, we do, you could go on any time and see that teachers and students follow each other. So I'm just curious, what would be the ramifications? My second question is, and I don't know if it belongs in here, and I appreciate the new approach with the teams and band, but I also know that there is sometimes communication on different apps like Class Dojo, which, it's a great app, but it is not something that the district, to my understanding, could keep a record of. So would that belong in this policy? Or I'm just curious what you think. Do we need a policy to make it clear that if teachers are communicating or staff are communicating with parents, it needs to be on some sort of platform that the district would have access to?
I wonder if that's covered by 1B, and that the contact should be through the district's computer and telephone system. Perhaps we could add some language there. It's a little bit clearer. But what is discussed by the subcommittee pretty regularly is the need to remind and share these expectations with staff in the community at the start of the school year and throughout. In the instances where I have seen over my 20 years here, certainly nothing necessarily recent, where there may be a student or teacher following each other on social media, it's always been a meeting with the administrator and the staff member, most always who is unknowing, unaware of the policy, and then quickly rectifies that. But I think that blanket review with clarity of the expectation is necessary as well. So I think there could be some room to clarify language-wise in terms of platform, maybe even adding the word platform.
I think, you know what, I would just appreciate that, because I know it's done innocently. People love that platform, especially in the, lower grades, because you can share a lot. But I think it needs to be very specific, and I would just appreciate that. And I would certainly leave it to the discretion of the committee. And I do think that, I appreciate, and I know most people know the dangers of communicating with, just social media in particular, but sometimes I think these recommendations, if you really can't enforce it, it just seems like an empty, expectation. So, and I have no offering on how to address that. But I would appreciate at least a mention of complying with certain platforms.
Member Donovan, could you be very clear about what you want added, and even maybe make an amendment so that we can make sure it gets added?
Should be through the district's accepted or approved platforms, computer and telephone systems.
So, Member Donovan, you are referring to Section B?
Yes.
All electronic contacts with students should be through the district's computer?
Accepted platforms, computer.
Accepted, so the amendment would be through the district's accepted platforms or approved platforms. Okay, would you like to make that an official?
Sure. I'd like to move that be included in Section 1B.
Second.
Any comments on that?
Okay.
Well, yeah, it was seconded by Member Keegan.
Okay.
You want to take roll on that change?
Sure.
Before we take a vote on that, can we just clarify the full sentence as it reads amended? Or as it would read amended, please?
All electronic contacts with students should be through the district's approved platforms, computer and telephone system, except emergency situations.
Thank you.
You're good with that second and clarity? You're still good with that second?
May I just ask a,
We're in a motion here, but,
I'm fine with it, yes.
okay, now we're in discussion. Member
I'm
Saros.
so sorry.
No, I just want to make sure we got, everyone's on the same page and we're all good with it.
I just wanted to double check, because what I originally wrote down that you said, districts accepted platforms or approved platforms.
Approved.
Just approved, not accepted. Okay, thank you.
Nice. The only question is do you have an approved list that's published?
The word approved makes me feel as though there needs to be a process for approval
Correct.
unless we are issuing the list, which we're in the works of doing anyway, a recommendation for the type of communication and the platform, talking points, IC, email, that we would recommend staff members use, just to clarify that. So that could double as the approved list, but it's generally the platforms that we as a district are providing, not that there's a seeking of permission.
Like, I mean, I just want to be careful with this too. Like, we're getting to like a whole different world here, because I know it's innocent, but I've seen teachers in the high school post different trips that were overnight trips with multiple teachers and students, and they might have tagged the teachers, but the students are in the photos on their social media. I've seen it with Backstage 22, right? Or what's
Stage Door.
22? Stage Door 22, where, the theater director and teacher have posted photos on their social media about how proud they are of their students that week, but they might have not tagged a student. They might have tagged a parent or even tagged, another faculty member. So are we saying also now that we're gonna start monitoring if a teacher or a facilitator or even our principals and superintendent posting on social media accounts, on the city's social media accounts? Because again, that's not an approved like Facebook. We use Facebook, we use Twitter or X. We use LinkedIn for some of these things too. I mean, there are other social media websites we use that would have this inappropriate behavior potentially. You're now saying something honest is going to be taken out altogether. So like, no teacher next year or principal or even the superintendent can post on Facebook potentially anything of students, because what happens if a student says, oh, that's me, I'm going to tag myself in it? It might not, you might say Facebook is not an approved form of communication. Now we can't do that. Am I wrong here?
So the way that I'm reading this policy is in terms of contact of.
But a photo could be a contact. If I post a photo and then I tag the student.
You'd be contacting the student.
Correct.
But that, again, we then would say that friending and unfriending students is frowned upon. So
what I'm getting at is a teacher cannot post a photo and then a student can't go tag themselves in it after. Even if it's a social media, like, we're gonna need teachers now to create Mr. and Mrs. Jones as their own Facebook page potentially as a teacher. So a professional Facebook page versus a personal one. So if I'm a coach or a teacher that has performing arts, I'm just gonna use performing arts for example here, or band when they go to Disney. Okay, how many people posted on that Disney trip or on any of the competitions this year on Facebook? And then a student might have gone on Facebook and been like, oh, that picture was reposted by Methuen Public Schools, but it came from Mr. DeZoglio's page, so I'm now gonna go tag myself on it. That's a form of contact. We're saying now our teachers and our faculty can't even promote any of the stuff that have been done in the school.
well, anyone can untag in their post.
Who's policing this, though? Is anyone can be posting a photo? I could post a photo at graduation And Lori, your daughter could have tagged herself in it for all I know. Or Martha, you could have tagged yourself in it or whatever. And then a student that you're friends with could have tagged them in it. Like we're like opening up a whole can of worms, because I could be friends with Lori, but I'm not friends with her daughter, and her daughter's gonna see the photo, and now the student's gonna tag themselves in it because they're in it. So this is gonna turn into a domino effect, especially when I look at like a Disney trip. How many facilitators went on that and they were tagged in photos with each other? Students were in the background. I know students started tagging themselves in those photos. What are we saying? We can't promote that anymore? Or are we saying our teachers are gonna have to create a professional page versus a personal page? And if we do that, we can't say Facebook is an accepted website, because some of this bad actor stuff happens on Facebook. So I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here.
Mr. Vice Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Willett?
So I just wanted to mention that, just as a point of clarification, don't we have an existing policy of people have to opt into being photographed by the school district officially? That if they would be an opt-out, they would
It's
have
an
to
opt,
sign?
it's an opt-out of, not opt-in, opt-out.
Okay, so maybe that's something we need to explore, is that specifically, I'm opting into being photographed because we're trying to protect the children in certain circumstances, and they would have that standing list. Because like, I thought it would be, you would be actively saying, yes, I don't have a problem with my children being photographed in official items, and a byproduct of that might be official trips sanctioned and approved by the school committee or official events. Then that would be covering us. But then we would do is, if the student voluntarily tags themselves, then it's the student doing it, not the school district including these students. So we would be protected in that front anyways. But it should be emanating from the parents of, yes, I have no problem with my children being included in official photos. And we're promoting, starting to promote a website. And I think, we got to catch up to other school districts of having some type of like media relationship out there and trying to promote the positive aspects of our school district. Like if you look at Salem, New Hampshire, and if you look at other school districts, we have to upgrade our website, and we have to really try to promote the positive aspects of our school district, which I think we're doing, and I think we're light years ahead of what we've been like from prior 2 years. I think we've made a lot of progress, but I think we need to have some maybe common sense items that it emanates from the parents, and they would have to do a form saying, yes, I have no problem, which I think the vast majority of the parents, if it's like sanctioned official events or things that are approved by the school committee, that yes, you occasionally be photographed, or no, I'd rather have not my kid be photographed, and then they would have a standing list, and they would try to do the best they can. But if the student just, accidentally or voluntarily tagged themselves in the photo, just out of the nature of want to be part of social media, we would be covering ourselves as a school district. But I'm concerned about these private sites, or maybe potential for favoritism or tagging people or something outside the reservation based on what's been happening across the country. So I think, this is a thoughtful conversation, and I think you raised some valid points, but maybe the vehicle is that the parents would have to, again, most of the people would opt in, but some of the people might opt out because they want to have the privacy of their children protected, and they want to not be part of that process. Might be even for religious and moral objections. I'm not entirely sure. But it's something that we should entertain as a school committee and work on this further. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Superintendent, do you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. There's a few layers to this, and one is that new PR firm that we're going to be working with to help design the website and create our social media channels. In our initial meeting with him, he recommended that there only really be one account for the district on all the different platforms, but only one account, and that there is a policy that's created to state that if there are other accounts by student groups who sometimes create their own, that there's some stock language that clearly denotes that this is not a representation of the views of the public school system, but is created by students in the club or something of the like. And then was beginning to discuss some other policy language that might be useful for that. So I would like to, as we move forward with this partnership, maybe even have him join one of our subcommittee meetings to talk about what are the policies that need to be in place. Is there some language that's missing from what we're working on, or is there something entirely different that we need to have down? Because we certainly want to make sure that what's being put out on behalf of the district is the district's true viewpoint. And on those channels, I know we're certainly careful for who we would be photographing or sharing in terms of photographs.
Mr. Vice, I have a question for you.
Sure. For me directly, or?
Yeah, I just want to make sure. So is you're concerned with the word approved in the context of?
Many of it is about approved, because
Okay.
we don't have a list of approved websites. I also question about the whole social media policy between, believe me, teachers should not be friends on social media with students until they graduate. End of story. End of story. I know coaches that aren't actual teachers, though, that are, teacher, not even a teacher. They might be a lawyer for, the federal government, but they are on our coaching staff. I don't see anything here. Oh, are we considering them? Yeah, I do see coach, but they're not fully, it's in C?
It says, or any other adult acting in an official capacity and supervising
That's the
students
red
in
line,
student
yeah.
activities.
So, again, we have those people are mentors of those students potentially for years. Hell, they could have their own child like that. What if we have parents? I'm not saying, Madam Superintendent, you're friends with your boys' friends, but you grew up with those kids. Who says that you're not? Like, we have teachers here that have been second parents to some of these students. So what are we saying? That's a no-no too? Like, that's a crossing a line. Like, personal and professionalism is two different things. I know what we're trying to do to protect, but I can make an argument that I've known several teachers here before I even became a school committee member. I knew several. Hell, what happens if one of them's an aunt or an uncle and we're all friends? I know there's a line here, but that's not calling out family. Who knows? How do you know that if I'm a student that Mr. Corrett's not a cousin? Now you're entering my personal life and Mr. Corrett's personal life to, for me to validate that I'm a cousin? So, there's not a lot of wiggle room here, guys. We're like calling it out for the worst case scenario. Love the idea, but we're saying approved, and we're getting down to some granular stuff here. So I just want to be careful, because we can get into who says it doesn't turn into harassment almost, this policy? Who's going to be maintaining it? It's like he said, she said. And you get a student that doesn't like another student, or doesn't like another teacher, and this turns into another topic. So I just want to be careful here.
At the heart of this, I see what you're saying, and that's why I said earlier, like, how do you enforce this? It's one thing to say, everyone, don't be friends with certain folks on Facebook, but we know, for whatever reason.
Not just
and
Facebook.
Facebook, right. Class Dojo is a little different, I think, but that said, is the whole purpose of, not the whole, but a significant piece of this would be to make sure, if God forbid something went sideways, the district would have access if there were investigation or something needed, right? So that said, does that help the discussion at all?
No, because I hate to say it. Go ahead.
That's kind of where I was gonna go.
Yeah.
Remember, Donovan, with this? Because it says that contacts with students should be maybe should be changed through the district computer or telephone system. So I believe that is, we would be able to track anything they did on their computer, correct?
I think telephone and computer sounds outdated. Maybe it's
Great.
communication systems. I think we're also maybe getting hung up on contact versus communication.
Yeah, and so if I may, this is also to what you referenced with the PR team. Maybe that's a different, because this is instruction. This is section I, instruction. When we're talking about contact here, it's specifically related to, for example, a teacher emailing a student about homework, or a coach emailing their captains, right, through this new website. And so a lot of other types of contact and communication is more informal, not instructional, not academic, things that have been mentioned. And so that perhaps is an opportunity for a policy in which our consultant can come in and tell us what we need to consider. But again, this section is about instruction, and about what you just mentioned, Member Donovan, is being able to have the availability to, in an official capacity, to know what's going on in certain cases.
Can I just clarify one thing?
Yeah.
Isn't a field trip considered instruction?
I think all the offerings of the district are instructional to some, period.
So that's the thing, is like, if I take a photo, am I now not supposed to send it? Like, if I can't, like, I get the purpose of this. I'm trying to look at it from the eyes of that person that's definitely gonna come to the stage and say, hey, there's a picture of Nick and Mary Beth here, and Nick's the student, and Mary Beth's the, principal. Should they really be on that photo together, or should they be tagged together? That's the thing. It's gonna happen potentially. It's not if, it's when. And so I just wanna be careful here. I get the point of it. I just think if you're gonna have a consulting come in, which we have not RFP'd and made a contract and a line to, then maybe we don't put that approved piece in. Because again, until we get a list, we're foreshadowing something that's gonna be in a handbook in September, and we're not gonna vote on an approved list beforehand, because you, me, and the wall could all agree on an approved list and disagree at the same time on what should be there and what shouldn't be. But I am personally thinking here of that individual that's gonna end up with a professional Facebook group or a professional X, and then a personal X and a personal Facebook, and at some point, what happens if it crosses over accidentally? That's what we're kind of leaning this down to. So I'm good with my commentary.
So
Member Keegan.
my concern about, part of me was like, okay, let's just hold on this policy until the consultant comes in and have them rework it. My worry is that we've had over the past year multiple issues with social media, with photos being used of students inappropriately, and we have no policy to fall back on to say, that's not okay. And so while I understand that we're not gonna be able to police, the thing is that when something is clearly inappropriate, we have no policy to fall back on to say, you can't do that because you just broke our policy. Do you see what I'm saying? And so without anything, we have people posting very inappropriately student photos in inappropriate groups.
I'm not gonna speak towards that, I don't know, but I'm gonna throw one more thing into this wrench. I'm sorry to do it. But AI has not come up at all in any of this conversation.
Yeah.
And that's not even in the policy for instruction. I was gonna wait until we finish this, but AI generation's not even in the social media policy. Like, how are we not talking about the biggest topic on the market today?
So, Vice Chair, in terms of AI, the superintendent this summer has reassured us that with a working group, there's DESI, people from DESI visiting the district to lend a hand in having a framework for an AI policy that aligns with DESI regulations, and furthermore, working with the IT department to create a very updated policy framework that doesn't exist, but that we were advised to wait for DESI coming in this summer to give us that framework. And I will note that Massachusetts just came out with a free online AI course for all residents of Massachusetts that I highly recommend. But it's a good point, Mr. Vice. It's well taken. I would defer to the superintendent to talk a little bit more about that process this summer, but it is not something that has been disregarded.
Thank you. So we did contract with the DESI-approved consultant for AI and how to promote its use appropriately in schools and also be aware of all the different facets of it. Our staff was really excited about that, many of whom have attended conferences where this individual was the presenter. And as our first step in August, he will be coming to meet in a little bit of a retreat-style workshop with the leadership team to help us frame how we want to go forth in governing its use, aligning with DESI's recommendations and that which he's seen in many other districts. So that will help us with the groundwork. And he's also going to be with us through the full year for professional development. So all staff will hear the kickoff, his opening speech about AI, and then we'll have focus groups or smaller workshop groups throughout the school year to learn how AI impacts their discipline, grade level role specifically. So we're really excited for that. But to create something different now might be premature, considering we haven't learned yet from the expert all the aspects we should be considering.
Mr. Vice, also, this is a discussion on the amendment, so.
Well, approved is, approved sites is also AI sites. So, I mean, you can take a picture or an image into ChatGPT or into Mythos or any of that. Like, again, I keep going down the rabbit hole here, but I'm not wrong. You're talking about topics here about an approved, and with that amendment and this policy itself, I just think we're gonna have to rewrite it mid-year. If we're gonna have AI come in and educate us over the next few months, we have to have a policy in the next school year for AI, and that's gonna fall right into instruction.
Would that be a separate one?
So, motion to move the question at this point.
Is there a second, or does anyone else have any? Well, that doesn't have to need a second, actually.
This is just on her.
Just on the amendment.
And for clarification, the amendment is all electronic contacts with students should be through the district's approved platforms, computer and telephone systems, except emergency situations, so that everybody's on the same page.
Okay. You ready?
Can I just ask, through you to the superintendent, what was
Say
the?
point of clarification, just for the,
Oh, point of clarification. What was it you thought it should be instead of computers and telephones? Communication systems, is that what you said? Thank you.
take roll on moving the question. Just so you know,
Yeah.
moving the question, then it takes
Yeah,
the
I
vote
know,
of
I'm
the
just
amendment,
checking
too.
this. DiZoglio?
No.
Donovan Grassi, yes. Baez?
Yes.
Keegan?
Yes.
Royce?
Yes.
Member Willett?
Yes.
And Mayor Beauregard.
Yes.
Now, voting as amended, your amendment.
Okay.
If you can read that amendment for us, Madam Secretary.
Oh, I didn't write it down. Let's see. Do we want to include in this what the superintendent said? Or do you want to?
We,
Just moved the question, and I asked if you guys had any conversation, and no one wanted to, and everyone just approved it. So we're motioning it as amended, as moved the question. There is no amending
So-
it until afterwards.
All electronic contacts with students should be through the district's approved platforms, computer and telephone system, except, it should say, except for emergency situations.
Okay,
Do we have that?
roll call.
Okay, all good? Member DiZoglio?
No.
Member Grassi, yes. Member Baez?
No.
Member Keegan?
No.
Member Soroyce?
No.
Member Willett?
Yes.
Member Beauregard?
No.
Okay, so that's 1, 2,
Two
3,
yes,
4, 5,
five
5,
no.
2.
So
Now
now
we can
does,
amend it.
do you guys want to amend it the right way now?
Yes,
There we go.
okay. I'd be who wants to do that?
So I'd like to make a motion to amend it. All electronic contacts with students should be through the district's communication systems, except for emergency situations.
Second.
So we have the motion for member Soroy, second for member Baez. Discussion. Do you want a motion to move the question? Are you good to go for roll? You have a question.
I'm
Got it.
sorry, yes. I thought that it was supposed to be all electronic contacts with students should be through the district's approved platforms, communication
Right.
systems, except for emergency
Is that
situations.
a friendly amendment to the amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
But she has to
You
accept
accept
it.
it? Yes. Not you. You accept it?
Yes.
All right. So now,
Okay.
the amended amendment. You guys are killing me tonight.
Yes.
Accepted. You want to read it back so that we'll, if there's any other question, we'll have roll.
Yes. It's all electronic contacts with students should be through the district's approved platforms. What's the word now? Communications systems, except for emergency situations.
Sue's gonna have fun with this meeting. I know she is. Any other conversation on this topic? If not, I'll ask for roll.
Okay.
None? Seeing none, closed. Secretary, take roll, please, before someone else.
Okay.
Wasn't
DiZoglio?
you. Yes. Don't move the question.
Donovan Grassi, yes. Baez?
Yes.
Keegan?
Yes.
Soroyce?
Yes.
Willett?
Yes.
Beauregard?
Yes.
Okey dokey.
All right. We have that amendment on the policy on social media. Anything else on policy of social media? Member Soroyce?
I would like to motion to add under C. Be created the last line, all groups must include the appropriate administrator as a member. Access to the page will remain with the coach or facility advisor. I would like to have a line added that all accounts and pages must be reported to the superintendent. The reason why I'm saying that after listening to the discussion is that Dr. Golubsky brought up about the new website administrator, and I think that somehow we're gonna have to get in touch with him to put those on the website.
I think he would not want them on the website. I'm wondering about, we have several students and student groups that run accounts that are not governed by the coach or faculty advisor. I'm thinking of an Instagram page that celebrates college acceptances that's totally student-run. And I do like that part of it. And I think it says clearly it's not a product of Methuen Public Schools, and I don't know that we need to have someone governing that. So I worry about the last sentence in C. I think It's more the case that we're streamlining the district's methods of communication through social media, and then the extras that are created are the extras that are created, that if the district chooses to repost or reshare one of the postings from a different account, they could do so, but it's through that one avenue. That's the district. While we're talking about social media, I'm also thinking about LinkedIn, where there's a lot of professionals. I'm not one of them that does this, but will promote positive things in the district. I see that from many districts around the country with photos and pictures and images. So it's not just the social channels for the purpose that we're thinking, but also in those ways too.
I could just
Open a new can of worms for everybody.
I didn't want to say, but like DECA, I'm assuming they're creating LinkedIn profiles for DECA, and your admin teacher is probably linked up with them. So, I mean, it's,
Ms. Rice, may I ask you a question? So, what do you, because I know there are some teachers who have their own Instagram pages, and the district may not be aware of it, and it's to innocently communicate with kids. So were you saying was your intent to say that staff would have to notify, although it says here how the groups must have an appropriate administrator? I took that right off to think of as like a principal, but I don't think that was meant. Does that mean a principal or an account administrator?
I was just thinking that the superintendent should be aware
Right,
of
so-
any of these groups, so I'm not sure maybe how to word, maybe I'm not wording it correctly.
Was that your intent, though? Was that your question?
Yes, no,
Like,
that was
okay,
my intent.
Okay. And I don't know if the district, I don't know. Does the district want teachers to have Instagram accounts to communicate with their kids, their students? Boy, we opened a can of worms. You're right.
you're leading down an avenue where
I
you
don't know.
have to
It's
create two
a legitimate
professional.
question, because
so-
I know there have been some instances where things were posted inappropriately on it. This is maybe a few years back on an Instagram page that the district was not aware of. And it was an innocent, the teacher was just communicating with students about what was going on, and it was in a different, but do we want that? If we do, I just think what Mr. Royce is bringing up would be there would have to be some sort of communication.
Well, I was just looking at this as, oh, I'm sorry, Vice Chair, through you.
No, you guys are in open discussion, go.
Okay,
I'm
thank
not
you.
just gonna stop you. Go. I'm just looking at something,
Where it says team,
Policy.
class, student, organization pages, accounts, or groups, and the coach and the faculty advisor, I was assuming that was anything to do with the sports, not like a teacher or a coach that's got their own page. I was taking this as anything that's done through those, the coach as a team, not as just a personal, someone going out there and making an Instagram page. That was the way I was reading that, so.
I also think, and that's a good point, this whole discussion is a great discussion, that when the Madam Superintendent was referring to the new PR consultant, that he come to a subcommittee meeting to enlighten us, because I think we're talking about two different things here. In terms of this policy, where it's like teams, bands, field trips, and then student accounts and groups like a student led mock trial or history club or whatever. I think that's different and should be governed in a different way, with language like not affiliated with Methuen Public Schools, which is what a lot of districts use. And I'm hopeful to get that clarification from our PR person. But I'm not disagreeing that we don't need it. I'm just saying that that might be its own policy within itself. That's my 2 cents on that.
I'll withdraw my motion.
okay. So,
Mr. Vice Chair, are we still engaging in discussion? I'd
on,
like to chime in.
on the policy on social media, yes.
Yeah,
Mr.
okay,
Mayor.
thank you. If I may.
Yeah.
So I think to an extent, we are overcomplicating things slightly and trying to build a rocket when we really don't have to do that. So right out of the gate, I think that we're capturing some important factors in the language that the committee has already put together in terms of the policy language, where when we talk about social media, we refer to approved platforms and the like when it comes to communication. I think that that's good. I think that what our consultant's going to tell us, it's John Guilfoyle and his company. The city works with them, the police department works with them, et cetera. So we have experience with them, and they're very helpful, and they'll do a great job for the schools. But when it comes to the advice that they'll likely give us, they'll say, look, you want to have one platform for the district. You want to make it clear that that is the one official source of information. And then from there, we have individual students and their parents that are able to opt out of having information or pictures, things like that, shared. The thing that we need to remember is that when it comes to our schools are comprised of people. They're comprised of teachers and administrators, staff members, but mainly our students. And so when we talk about wanting to communicate some of the terrific things happening in our schools, they're going to involve our teachers. They're going to involve our students. And so I think that by having, number one, the policy in place that deals with the opt-out allowance in terms of, whether parents want their kids, in the public square to any extent, having that in place, having the fact that this is an official network that will be established on our behalf with Guilfoyle in place is good. But then beyond that, I think having this common sense notion of, hey, we have an approved system and this is what we're using. I don't know if we have to go too crazy. I think it's certainly ill-advised for any teacher to engage with students outside of the classroom, whether it's through a text message, personally, on social media, in any capacity. I think those are individual personnel issues that we have procedures for, but in the context of social media, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Anything else? All right, moving on to field trips, IJOA.
Thank you, Mr. Vice. So we are recommending removal of hours and a adoption of a new IJOA. Again, you all had extensive time to look through these, so opening it up for questions right away. Okay,
Seeing none, moving on.
thank you. Policy IJOB, community resource persons / speakers.
So I actually had one question about IJOAA.
Please. Oh, yes, that, sorry, I seem to have skipped that one. Again, this is one of those policies that MASC has said that we have, is best to be moved to the handbook. In terms of being in line with the policy above that, the field trip, and then would be the procedures that align with that. But go ahead. Sorry about that.
So is student trip policy gonna be in a separate section of it in the handbook? I just wanna make sure
Yeah.
that,
So the policy would be in our policy manual, and then
so is this going into the handbook?
Yes,
This whole
exactly.
written statement?
yeah, the student trip policy, IJOAA, was recommended to us to be moved to the handbook as it is procedural and would be in line with the practices in the field trip policy.
Okay. I just wanna make sure.
No, thank you for reminding me. I seem to have skipped that one in my endless scrolling.
And, do we not wanna call that out then in IJOA, is to follow the handbook on out-of-state travel or overnight travel? Cause student trip policy, we wanna make sure we're calling that out or in the handbook. In our policy, should we be calling it out in the handbook, is what I'm getting at.
This was recommended for removal by MASC, and it was noted as a Methuen-only policy, and that other districts don't typically have it.
They don't have a policy about how a student should act or.
Not
handbook?
in this place. It would live in the handbook, which is another form of policy that would be approved yearly. So I think having it there for the sake of updating as needed and yearly makes sense. There also is the obligation of the superintendent to bring forth for approval any out-of-state or overnight trips as well, so you'd be made aware of those prior to. But I think it makes sense to move it to the handbook.
Any questions? Right. Moving on to community resource persons and speakers, IJOB.
Straight open up to questions, Mr. Vice.
Any questions on this? Seeing none?
Thank you. File IJOC, school volunteers. Any questions?
The one question I had on this was, it's a cross-referencing our background checks, but we didn't mention Corey's or anything like this would be required in it. I'm assuming we're Corey checking. So do we not want to call that out in the policy? That we have to Corey and do checks? I know there's a cross-reference piece here,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not calling it out that that's required. In most policies, that would be called out.
I believe the query checks are in a different section, and they are definitely required. I believe we've already passed those.
If I'm not mistaken, that would be section A, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, so I wasn't here for any of that. Okay,
I wasn't either, Mr. Vice.
okay. Do we not want to call it out, though?
So I'm guessing that ADDA is actually the call
Background
out.
checks is the cross-reference, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good then.
Any other questions on this? If not, file IKAB, student progress reports to parents and guardians. The subcommittee recommends adoption.
Any questions on this one? Yes, Member Donovan.
It's just a question to the subcommittee. The language, when a student's performance warrants attention. I'm just curious how you landed on that phrase, because I think that could be.
Could you point out in which paragraph you're?
Oh, I apologize. The third, in addition to the periodic reports, parents, guardians will be notified when a student's performance warrants attention. What does warrant attention mean? That's the first thing that jumped out at me, because I think everyone might have, people might have different perspectives of what that means. And just curious why you landed on that.
So as a subcommittee, we have decided to adopt the language of MASC on this and their guidance. I think that we had a discussion actually on this policy in terms of what we want to leave open for our educators and what we really want to mandate, from a top-down level. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and please come in, our discussion revolved around making sure that our educators have the leeway to make sure that they're serving all of our students in an equitable fashion. But I'll also defer to the superintendent.
So this would be, any change in student performance that might be abrupt or gradual over time, but trending in one direction, or for the same token, remaining consistently high, and we're reaching out to celebrate and to share that with the parent, or consistently below and reaching out because we're in need of support. I'm coming from a place of, of concern for that phrase, because I feel as though all students' performance is deserving of attention.
Thank you for that. That's
right.
I think where I was a little stuck. Yeah, okay, thank you.
I just have a quick question. I know, what grade is it that we flip to letters? Is it 5th grade, 6th grade?
7.
7th grade now. So parents can see all the grades of the individual student in Infinite Campus, correct? If the teacher is up to date with documenting.
7 through 12.
So they have the ability to see that progress. If we wanted to find out, and let's say a teacher isn't, but a parent is like well adversed and wants to get involved with their K through 6, what type of stuff are they putting into Infinite Campus? They're not putting grades in. Are they doing any type of progress report or any type of development update?
So that's something we're undertaking right now, is to streamline with consistency what all families are getting. They're largely getting what comes home in the folder in terms of corrected work and feedback that way. We'll be moving to consistent benchmark assessment updates for reading and ELA, but we also have them for math that can go home as well. And then there's a few other areas where we want to be a little bit more transparent. Moving forward, I would like to see K6 put in those incremental assignments to provide feedback to families. But that's going to take a little bit of work on our end to designate what's deserving of being in the portal and what's a quick formative assessment that shouldn't be in the portal. So we're working on calibrating those practices. But we also, with our Cascades platform, which we've pretty much built this year with the help from our partners, it's going to provide a student summary page, which is a composite of all data that we have on the student. And we've started to have discussions about what access could parents have to that periodically, or is there a printout we could send home for parents periodically as well, which is one of the reasons why we moved up in the school calendar the parent-teacher conferences, because we want to build the rapport and relationship with parents earlier. And so it doesn't help if we're the keepers of the knowledge and we don't have the parents who have the biggest impact on their students in the dark.
I'm just thinking this would be a constant automated progress report, and if a parent saw a warning or, you know, a teacher made a comment, that would be the evaluation piece here. So I'm just thinking, it's, if we already have the technology and we already are doing it, I'm just curious if there really is a policy around it, if we're doing it, but, just thank you.
Mr. Vice,
Yep.
I really like that question of yours, and I would like to piggyback and maybe speak about the differences in terms of the educational expert in trimesters versus quarters. I know when I was here, we did quarters, I believe, and the, you know, perhaps in the educational world, which one is better, and in terms of for performance and tracking performance and tracking, for example, literacy and all that.
So the grammar schools operate under trimesters, although I share quarterly to you reports. So in their trimesters setup, we have beginning, middle, and end of the year benchmarks. We have those same cadence of benchmarks at the high school, although they operate on quarters. The high school, because they need a shorter span of time to ensure that students are on track for course completion and credit attainment throughout the year, those checkpoints are really important. And also, we're working with the national standards for when students would apply for colleges or when they need certain grades on transcripts. So I do like having those more frequent touch points on the high school students with that shorter span of time. In the grammar schools, there is an element in the younger grades of students becoming acclimated to the classroom, learning classroom routines. And it gives us a little bit more runway within a trimester to make more moves instructionally. I don't know that I feel strongly one way or the other. I think what's happening within those segments of time is what's most important, especially in terms of reporting progress. We certainly don't want to wait till the close of the trimester to import or add all the grades when the idea is to be adjusting and informing in real time. So we're working towards some consistencies in terms of that as well.
Thank you for the context.
Any other further questions? Okay, moving on to homework policy, IKB.
Thank you, Mr. Vice. We are recommending removal of our current policy and adoption of a new policy. in the next page. This is something that the subcommittee had extensive discussion about, specifically in terms of consistency in the district. So in this policy specifically, before, Mr. Vice, through you, we open it up to discussion, perhaps the superintendent could give us a little bit more context in terms of what she's working on with the leadership team now in terms of consistency and practices that are currently going on in the district before we open it up to discussion, if that's okay with you, Madam Superintendent.
Sure. The older homework policy, or the one that's recommended for revision, spells out by grade the number of minutes that's recommended for students to spend on homework per night. I don't think that's consistent with what's happening now, nor is that our recommendation. So across the district, it's pretty consistent that homework is viewed as an opportunity for practice, reinforcement, enrichment. So should students choose. And generally, students are not penalized to a significant degree for not completing homework. Instead, we're using that to help us inform what students understood from the preceding day or preceding lesson and how we can direct our instruction in other ways. So that's a movement that's probably been in existence here for over the past decade, and that we're using it for practice, and certainly to inspire creativity. That being said, there is a different understanding of what is a take-home examination, what is a long-term project that requires work at home, or opposed to a short-term project, or is it quote-unquote busy work, which we try to refrain from doing. A lot of the digital platforms that we do offer for students in our curricular programs have a component for practice that adjusts to meet that student's needs. So if they did get home and feel like they needed something that was just right for them, they can certainly move through those modules to practice that way as well. So it's taken a different look as time has gone on. At the high school, homework typically counts for 5% of the student's term grade, and that there's other means of gathering data to communicate to students and families where that student stands in terms of their progress toward the statewide frameworks, which is really what we're trying to show. So sometimes when, to your point earlier, Vice Chair, when a parent or student's looking at a letter grade or a certain standard abbreviation, we want that to communicate that this is where the student stands in relation to the grade level standards for that subject area, not how conducive their home was to completing homework. But also, we do find value in homework sometimes because it simply inspires some conversation between parent and student, asking what they're working on, working through a few problems together, but certainly not to the extent where it's causing any duress or stress in the home, as we sometimes have heard in the past over math as we advance through the grades. So we think that this new policy the subcommittee is putting forth in the guiding principles communicates that while allowing for the flexibility by grade level or teacher for assigning homework. And I didn't address the observances or the culturally significant dates, which was important to the committee as well. I didn't know if any committee members wish to chime in on that, but the subcommittee generally felt that it was important that it be articulated that homework assignments not be assigned on the major religious observances or culturally significant dates that may reasonably interfere with the student's ability to complete schoolwork outside of school hours, which seems reasonable.
Thank you for that context, as I hope that it'd be a very thoughtful and rich discussion. Open it up to questions, if any. No?
Of course, I'm that guy. Homework assignments shall not be assigned on major religious observance or culturally significant dates that may reasonably interfere with students' ability to complete work outside of school hours. Finals, when was finals? This year?
So we run finals the last full week of school, the date preceding the commencement of the finals week. We do an all blocks meet day. So students review in every class and then they proceed with finals. And then at the tail end of that week, we do the makeup days for students who are unable to attend or complete finals the day before.
So when was last day of finals this year? No, because Juneteenth is now a holiday.
It was on June 18th was the last day of
Was the last
finals.
finals day? Because the only thing I did hear about was some studying was happening over the weekend. It was probably makeup.
Makeup.
So if finals were happening the following Monday, it was, a parent made a comment like, hey, we're trying to leave for the holidays, and now they have the final that they have to do on that Monday. Like, how's that fair for the student? So that did come back to me recently, but that's the only reason why I'm asking is if there is a project or something that's happening over a Labor Day or Memorial Day, you know, Juneteenth, like, how do we avoid that? You know, and that's still a holiday, and families celebrate Memorial Day and Veterans Day and holidays that we take off. If there's a project or homework that is assigned on that Thursday and it's not due until the following Tuesday, technically that holiday is falling on that holiday weekend. So I'm just curious on how we are going to implement that. Are we saying that, hey, if you have a class that's gonna fall on the following week, you know, you're excused from homework because there's a holiday that's in between the next class and now? I just, that's the way I'm seeing this is.
I think the important piece there is the may reasonably interfere with the student's ability to complete the schoolwork outside of school hours. So many things in consideration there. What is the size of the project? What's the duration of when it was assigned? As you can imagine, at the high school with students, you know, enrolled in 7 different classes.
High school, that's why. I'm not thinking of so much the elementary or
Yeah,
grammar school.
when they're enrolled in 7 different classes, there's so many different compositions of what that schedule could look like. There certainly isn't the opportunity for teachers to collaborate on who's assigning what, do when. So oftentimes there are a lot of long-term projects that the students will need to parse out for when they spend their time to complete that work. I do find the teachers at the high school are very flexible and understanding, especially when reason is presented prior to the due date or at the onset of the assignment if a student has a circumstance, a religious holiday, cultural holiday that's coming up. But certainly there would be some, for instance, on the long weekend, a Labor Day weekend or Memorial Day weekend.
Let's use Thanksgiving. Like, if I have a book that I'm reading in class, and I have a test on that following Monday or Tuesday after Thanksgiving, and they were assigned Monday before Thanksgiving, are we saying that if I didn't read that book because I was traveling for Thanksgiving or I was observing Thanksgiving, like, no teacher is going to be able to set up a test for that Monday or Tuesday on return? That's the only thing, is at that point I am studying for that test potentially during the Thanksgiving holiday.
Right.
So again, I was trying to use an easier
Yeah.
holiday
Right.
that was more recent, but Thanksgiving's a perfect example. So are we gonna say that teachers can no longer have tests on the return week of Thanksgiving? Because if I'm going away, that will interfere with my Thanksgiving.
And I think reasonable is where we're getting into trouble, because I would think it's reasonable to expect you to read a couple chapters on the plane.
I get car
But that's,
sick.
so that's,
Hey, I get
or
car
audiobook.
sick, I get air. Well, are we doing audiobooks now? Are we allowing audiobooks? I'm just saying, I'm playing that parent.
no, I'm glad you brought it up, because I think there is some gray area there.
You know, I'm playing that parent. And you know it will come up, and they'll stand there and say, hey, my kid was on, a trip, and we would have our own opinions, but they're not wrong.
if I may.
Mm-hmm.
So through you to the Madam Superintendent, could you clarify I would say the majority in terms of the high school that teachers, do they assign not reading or a project that has a long-term duration, but let's say an exam following right after a holiday? Is that practice? Is that a common practice?
It used to be the case that you weren't permitted to give an assessment the Monday following a long weekend or a vacation, and you could not give a surprise assessment on those dates either. I remembered those as a student because I felt safe on those days. But I do think that the staff as a whole is understanding of breaks, but at the same time, it's a balance because we do have a lot of high achieving students who are in, you've heard them at the podium, 7 or 8 AP classes, depending on the semester and what they're taking. So to not have any opportunity or not assign even some loose study materials over those dates would be almost a penalty to them. But at the same time, we certainly want students to have the break so they're not overtaxing themselves either. So I think it's a fine balance. What I'm finding is trending is that we're not seeing a lot of what you might call busy work or night-to-night assignments. We're seeing more medium to long-range assignments with teachers recommending to students how to manage their time in shorter increments and allowing that runway. So, I mean, we're talking about holidays, but we have some students here who work a full-time amount of hours after school and at night and play sports and participate in clubs and band and care for their siblings. So their day-to-day lives are really busy too. And I think everyone's really aware of that, which is why we give them the flexibility of deciding when they have those windows to accomplish or to work on homework. I wanted to mention too, we also have academic enhancement for those AP students, which is a supported study block first thing in the morning. And then after school at the high school, Mondays through Thursdays, this media center is staffed with a teacher in every major discipline, and students can come and seek extra help to kind of chip away at that homework too. But in short, less night to night, shorter assignments and more longer range assignments that give them some flexibility.
Thank you. Because I'm thinking about, things like Yom Kippur, for example, that calls for reflection from sundown to sunrise, I believe. I could be wrong.
Ramadan.
But there's
Or
also
any of those, especially
there's Ramadan, but there's also a Jewish holiday in the fall.
Yep, there's Jewish. I mean, we don't recognize
We
those.
don't, but
And-
that's what would be reasonably interfering with completing homework. And I was just asking for that clarification because a longer term project, a student is able to plan out and ahead of time let their teacher know. So I thank you for that context.
And I just want, I know school districts that take off those holidays in other communities. And we do have a very high Islamic population here in Methuen, and we don't take any of the Islamic holidays off. So, I mean, that also does cover that, but are we honoring that through this piece here? Is that what we're saying then? Is if a student comes and says, I reserve Ramadan, I'm not gonna be doing homework this week? Or,
The practice is now, the administration will send out a reminder to staff that we're in the season where students may be present differently in class, depending on if they're fasting or not, and how to support students. The students also do an excellent job of advocating for themselves. We have a bulletin board that has a display of information. I hate to rely on the faculty is generally very attuned to that and works with our students, because I know the point of policy is to make sure when there is that one-off situation, that we're able to fall back and guide through it that way. But that's become our practice here. We do have a lot of parents the Muslim community come in and make lunch for the faculty and staff, and I think everyone's been very understanding of that. There are the students who may be less vocal and less apt to advocate, especially when they're not a member of a community that is sizable in number in the district too.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't know how people feel about this. We've been doing it right for 300 years. I don't think we need this paragraph, personally. The homework assignment shall not be assigned on major religious observance or culturally significant dates. We've been doing it right for 300 years. If we have to make an accommodation for a student for some reason, our teachers have done it. I just think by putting this in here, we're giving an excuse for a parent and a student to take advantage, and they might not even celebrate it. And I don't want us to go down the road to say, hey, well, do you really celebrate the holiday? We have to take the honor system. And I just think we're gonna put a situation out there where a parent argues it and the teacher might not accept it, or vice versa. I just think if this wasn't here before and we've never had a real problem about it, I don't think it needs to be here, personally. And I'm only one person, but I can't motion it. So if you guys want to keep it, that's fine, but I just think we're opening up ourselves to a little headache in the future. So is there an entertained motion there for that? Okay. And just so everyone knows, we're reviewing this. We do, I believe, Madam Superintendent, we have to vote each of these policies in, if I recall. I don't think you do it by a section. I'm pretty sure it was by
We've done it by
policy.
section before. Yeah.
We, or the last school committee?
MASC has guided us through this entire process because we've paid them for a 3-year policy review for all of our policies. We approve by section, typically in form, although this section we're not doing in form. So the rest of the sections that we've already done have been done in form. And when we finish all of the sections, we will then vote to pass all of them together. And so it's one big vote. So it's a section vote. It's not a policy by policy vote.
Can we just get that in writing from MASC? Because we've been doing a review, and that's why we haven't been going vote for vote for vote, because we're in a review status in this, and we've been tabling. But, and Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's why it's highlighted here in each of these letters, and we're taking them up one by one, and their own individual policies. So I just want to make sure before our full vote next time that we're doing this right. Because I know in previous years, we would go policy by policy by policy, especially if it was only one policy that was being updated and not the whole section.
Point of clarification, have you been on a school committee where you've done a full policy review?
I've been on a school committee where we've done policy reviews, yes.
But like a full policy review of all the policies is what I'm asking.
No, but we did one policy at a time. We didn't do a section.
So that's why it might be a
So
little
if I did
different.
one, yeah, but that's the thing, is you're updating policy by policy by policy. If Ken,
MASC is the one that
I'm
writes
just,
the motions.
I'm just asking for the clarification before I take a vote. That's it. We're right now in a review, and we're not voting on each section. We're going one by one just to review it. And that's the only reason why I haven't said anything until now, but because we're getting to the bottom of this. And Mayor Beauregard, do you have a reasonable question on that, or?
So Vice Chair, just to respond to your question. So I'd have to go back and look the last time, at least when I was chairing a committee meeting, that we did something similar. I don't recall off the top of my head, but I would recommend going with whatever MASC is recommending.
Exactly.
Simply because they're kind of guiding us through the process from
Yep.
soup to nuts. So I would rely on MASC.
Yeah, I just want to see a statement from MASC on the approval.
We'll get that for you.
Thank you. On the way to vote for this. Thank you. All right, next section is.
Sorry, was there a motion for the recommended amendment?
No one motioned it.
Oh, okay.
It moved on.
All
No,
right.
We moved on, so it's gonna stay there. But that's another reason why I don't agree with that policy. So now I'm gonna vote no on this whole thing. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. If I have a problem with one of the policies here, that dilutes it. So if you have a problem with one policy and I have a problem with a policy and you have a policy problem, now that's 3 no's. You need a majority vote here to pass the whole section. That's why I'm not reading the room here correctly. So that's why, let's get the approval with the MASC on each of that, because now I'm a no on this whole section.
Vice Chair, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Just to clarify something
Yep.
for me. So if we, in the end, vote policy by policy, and one of the policies fails, it's eliminated from the section? Is that how that would work?
It would go back to the original policy. It would stay. Whatever that policy was would stay.
And if there wasn't an original policy and the
That new
policy
policy
was from
wouldn't go,
MASC,
yeah.
it just would.
It would not go
be
in.
eliminated.
That's
Okay.
how I would see how that would be done. But
Okay.
because if we have 6 opinions on 6 different policies here, it doesn't make sense that we would be voting on this as one whole section. That's my only thing here.
Thank you.
So,
We'll get something for you from MASC.
thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it. All right, next section is, I'm sorry, promotion and retention of students, is that the right?
Yeah, file IKE.
E, thank you.
Yep, promotion and retention of students. Questions? Nothing from Zoom world. So the next policy would be,
Graduation requirements.
yep,
Any questions on this one? And this is coming directly from MASC, I'm assuming, Madam Superintendent? Or is this us?
This was the MASC policy that was updated, I think 2023. But as the state's coming out with new requirements,
Would that be for this school year or for next, the 27 school
it's a
year?
few years out. So the first step in that, making sure we're aligned with Mass Core, which we are. And then we're starting to build more proficiency-based models for the latter years of high school. But this is consistent in terms of the number of credits and the basic courses. But again, this is something that's also in our program of studies, I believe in the handbooks also, where we talk about that, and our competency determination is a part of the grad requirement. This speaks more to the courses. Member Keegan, I think, had something to say.
Yep.
I just actually noticed a mistake in it. The physical education, we do not require 4 years. We actually require 4 semesters. So that actually, I would make an amendment to change that. I'm not sure how we missed that before.
Is that
I
4
apologize.
semesters or over 4 years? Or is it two years? Could I do it all in how do you break that up? Isn't it 1 per year?
Not always. And there's some language in our policy or our procedure that's at principal discretion.
So I could have 2 in my senior year?
Yeah, I think what would make sense in light of recent developments with the grad requirements is that maybe we take a look at this one or add some language that says that we'll continue to track and follow what the state is suggesting and approving as their requirements as well. We also have some health requirements that aren't spelled out in here as well.
So again, it goes back to my original question.
This one's in flux because the state's in flux.
So that's why it goes back to my original question. Could we pull this? Because you can't, if we're voting on the whole section, we can't approve this. So,
So I'm going to make a motion to hold this policy completely out.
can I just give you a recommendation? I would motion to default back to the original one, but that's not correct either. Am I accurate in that statement either, too?
But that's not I didn't hear what you said.
If I say default to the original graduation policy that you currently have, that's still not accurate either.
Right.
So we would have to come up with a language that states, please, I would maybe redline this whole new one and make an amendment that says, in a line to DESI regulations and Mass Core, please follow that policy or something like that? I mean, or
The-
I'm trying to think of the easiest way to do that for you.
IKFE that follows
Yeah.
spells out our local graduation minimum requirements and then our CD. But that would even need to be revisited again, moving forward as to what's expected of classes in the future.
Well, actually, I just realized your IKFE also says Methuen High School graduation requirements.
Right, because,
So you have two that have graduation requirements, so it wouldn't it be like a,
So I think we could pull IKF completely and just
Mm-hmm.
leave IKFE.
That sounds right to me, honestly. I think it's the best.
so
And
is
then
there a motion to remove IKF altogether?
Second.
Motion by Keegan, seconded by Sir Royce. Take roll on that? Unless there's any dialogue on that.
We ready?
Go ahead.
DiZoglio?
Yes.
Donovan? Yes. Baez?
yes,
Keegan?
Yes.
Soroyce?
Yes.
Willett? Member Willett? And Mayor Beauregard?
Yes.
Did we lose Ken, maybe? Okay.
may I move on?
Yes.
In that light, IKFE, I'm not sure if we want to continue the discussion on adding language about continuation of DESI regulations, but open it up to discussions on that.
This was a hefty read too. I think it was like 4 pages, 5 pages.
And I refer to Member Keegan on this policy, as she really spearheaded some of the minor changes in this as well.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
for that recognition. Maybe as an asterisk somewhere at the bottom of the page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, after diploma requirements, previously enrolled students, or maybe even at the top of the page. Either at the top of the first page or at the end of the last page, it says asterisk that says, you know, may not be updated to DESI or Mass Core standards. Please review with an administrator on language. I don't know. You're saying this is in flex, so I'm trying to think of the easiest way of doing this for you.
So this policy is in, we approved it. There's just minor changes to it that we approved last fall. This is in the handbook and it gets reviewed every year. So it's gonna be updated as needed every year because it's part of the handbook.
Will it be updated in the handbook?
and then we'll need to make sure it's updated on the website and in this section as well.
So any language, should any language be added to this then, about DESI or Mass Core? Madam Superintendent?
No, because I think if we do it yearly, it's better because we can't be sure at any point in time
It'll be accurate.
that we're accurately reflecting exactly. We might be in a planning stage or heading toward it for the following year.
Yeah.
But that's what's being recommended from the state now, and likely where we'll be headed are those changes.
It also says, in the second paragraph, Methuen High School's minimum course requirements are aligned with Mass Core, a state-recommended program of studies. So it does reference Mass Core, at least, so if Mass Core changes, we're gonna change.
Any other questions, comments from the committee? All right, moving on to ILD, which is student submission of educational surveys and research.
Yep. Any questions? The subcommittee recommends adoption, of course.
Is this an opt-in option or is it an opt-out? Just curious.
So this policy was extensively viewed by the subcommittee. And so originally, and to answer your question, I was just giving you context, but to answer your question, I would defer to the superintendent on how it's going to work in implementation. But just to let you know that the opt-in versus opt-out was a heavy conversation in the subcommittee, and I'll let the superintendent answer your question in terms of implementation.
So the phrasing that was worked on specifically to that was the start of the second paragraph. No student whose parent/guardian or the student themselves, if over the age of 18, has opted out shall be required. So students who have opted out, if they're over 18, or their parent or guardian, if they have opted out, they will not be required to take part in the program that's funded by Department of Education to submit surveys with the following. So that's an opt-out.
Thank you.
And the reason why we changed it from MASC, their language said opt-in. We changed it to an opt-out because that is our current policy, or that's our current way of doing
Practice.
things
Practice,
for
sorry.
everything. And
Yep.
so we already have a well-oiled machine that works. We
Yep.
didn't want to have to upheaval the apple cart.
Okay, makes sense.
Any questions from the committee, virtually or here on the ground? All right, seeing none, moving on to IMD, School Ceremonies and Observances.
IMB.
IMD. No, IMB is a movie website database, isn't it, or is that IMD?
So I have teaching about controversial issues, controversial speakers, file IMB.
I don't have that on mine.
You just have the red.
We pulled it.
You pulled it.
Yeah, we're not
Yeah,
recommending.
yeah,
Oh, I'm
okay,
I
sorry,
didn't
yeah.
even see that. I just moved on. Sorry, teaching, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
because we had that hiccup last time, I just want to say
Sorry.
that we're not recommending that policy from MASC.
Sorry, I was looking at this list right here on my right-hand side, and that's not on it. Yes, okay.
Okay, no
Thank
worries.
you for calling it out.
Of course. I just wanted to make sure that if people had that. Okay. So file IMD, school ceremonies and observances. Questions?
I mean, that piece at the beginning of the homework policy kind of contradicts some of the stuff in here, because it says the observance of religious holidays is not the responsibility of the public schools, but yet we have the language now about homework about religious studies. So again, there's a contradiction here, and I would argue now, back at that policy of homework, am I wrong? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to nitpick, but
So it all stems from the fact that the Methuen Public Schools observes Good Friday and nothing else. And so there you have it. If we observed everything or we observed nothing, then that would be fine. But we don't. And so because we give Good Friday off to students and they don't have to make up anything and they don't have to be responsible for work on Good Friday because of their religious observance, it is important that other people's religious observances get the same consideration. And so that's where it comes from. And yes, it absolutely is. And this line here says to me we shouldn't be giving off Good Friday because it's not our job to be dealing with religious holidays. So if you want to get rid of Good Friday from the holiday schedule, from the school schedule, then we can get rid of all of it. If not, then we need to.
my work gives away Good Friday.
Right.
I don't work on Good Friday. My work does. I think is it a federal holiday these days?
It is not. It is absolutely not. It is the only religious-only holiday that we give off. Everything else we give off is a federal holiday.
But you,
So-
so in your position, and
Yeah.
again, I'm just speaking
So-
to the committee here
Right,
on
so
what
either
it
we
is.
do everything or we do nothing.
But
and That's where that comes from.
But your policy here says the observance of a religious holiday is not responsibility of the public schools. But then you go back to the homework policy, and it says homework assignments shall not be assigned on major religious observances. Now that is a public school issue. That's, you're saying here, it's not the responsibility of the public schools, but yet here we are now saying, we're gonna not give you homework on certain holidays.
We
the
don't
key-
give you school on certain holidays.
The key word here is the observance of the holiday. So when you're talking about the high school, the homework policy, in specifically to the high school, it's talking about homework, not the actual observance of a holiday like Ramadan. It is not the responsibility of the public schools to facilitate the materials needed or whatever that's needed to do Ramadan. That's what the observance of is how I read it, versus in the homework policy, when major religious observance interferes in out of school ability of a student in out of school hours to complete homework, to me is two different things.
You're not saying that, though. You're using the word observance. That's the key word here. You're using it in the same fashion as school ceremonies and observances. Homework assignments shall not be assigned on major religious observances or culturally significant dates that may reasonably interfere with a student's ability to complete schoolwork outside of school hours. You're not saying day off. You're not saying the holiday where the school is closed. You're not saying the day a school is open. But here you're saying the observance of a religious holiday is not the responsibility of the public schools. So I go back to the idea of now, it's not your place to say that, okay, it's not the responsibility of the schools, but if I'm assigned homework on this day, Ramadan, you're saying I don't have to do the homework. I look at this as a major religious holiday, okay? And I am gonna have a significant, reasonable reason why it's gonna interfere in my school day. But yet you're saying in the school ceremonies, we're not observing, and it's not our responsibility of the public schools. You're interfering in one policy, the word observance, versus saying it's not a big deal in the other one.
So in terms of completing schoolwork out of school hours, not in a school environment, is different than a teacher going to the entire class and saying, we're going to do 15 minutes of reflection for this and this holiday.
You're looking at it in a whole different scenario. I'm looking at it as a student that has to go to school on my holiday, and then I'm being told my homework assignments might not be on me tonight if I have to go feast, or I have an event, or I have Hanukkah and I'm gonna spend time with my family during the 8 nights. That is saying one thing, and this is saying we will not recognize that under the supervision of the public schools. That's what that's saying, is this is saying,
Responsibility and recognition,
but yet
and recognition is different.
but school work is the responsibility of the student to have in if it's due on that day.
The public schools don't exist in a vacuum. The religious holidays happen during the days that schools are in session. Responsibility of observing a holiday versus the recognition that one happens while there's school days.
You tell
We're
that to a
talking
parent.
about-
No, you tell that to a parent who then gets a tardy or maybe an excused absence for not sending their school the next day. Are they gonna get excused absences if they're out for 8 days for Hanukkah?
Mr. Vice Chairman? Mr. Vice Chairman?
Oh, Ken, you're back. You there?
I've been here for a while listening to the conversation. So like, I just had a quick point of clarification. Do we assign during the Christmas break, going into the new year, do we assign homework as a school district, as a policy?
There's not a policy against that or for that. We talked before about there's some long-term projects that might perhaps span it. or go over it. But I don't
So,
believe
like,
that it's the case that it's assigned at the start and then the completion is the due date.
Okay, so for the most part, we can confidently assert that we do not assign homework over the course of the Christmas break going into the new year. That also goes into the Hanukkah celebration.
Ken,
Would that be a correct
Ken,
assessment?
Ken, were you there for the homework and guidelines conversation where we're talking about Thanksgiving or Juneteenth or Memorial Day?
Oh, I've been for the conversation since like the last few years with Member Keegan and Good Friday, and I've kept my tongue. Because if we have an observance for the Muslim faith in our schools, right, and we honor that because it originates from the students themselves and we respect that religion, so long as we don't establish a state religion, which goes back to the Constitution of the United States,
Yep.
because in this country we don't have the establishment of a state religion. I'm not understanding the conversation about Good Friday versus we have a Muslim faith room. Do we have a Christian faith room in our school system? Or we just want accommodating one religion versus another? Because if it originates from the students and the parents, that's the Constitution of the United States.
I'm not trading.
You know, so you can interject as the vice chairman and have your personal opinion. You do that at the end of the conversation as the vice chair. We've had these conversations about Good Friday. I'm done having a conversation about Good Friday because I respect all religions operating within our school system. I have absolutely zero objection to the Muslim faith room. And we maybe, if someone wants to have a Christian prayer room during, or a Hanukkah or a Jewish faith, or it originates that we have Halloween, okay, and certain holidays that originates from the parents and the students organically, that's in our policy. If we establish it as part of the school system, the establishment of religion, then that's in violation of the Constitution, going back to the founding fathers. So I'm not going to have someone say, well, were you part of these conversations? I was part of all these conversations, and I held my tongue. I'm not going to do it anymore.
So Ken, thank you for your point. I asked if there was any questions about this and no one answered, and then I started speaking. So I just want to be clear on that. And I've gone around the room and we called for a vote recently and we didn't get a connection with you. So I just want to be clear. We did a vote recently and we couldn't get a connection. So I just want to make sure you were there. Now, Martha, you had no, Member Donovan, you had a statement now, and then Member Soroyce.
I mean, it's just a thought, because that one sentence is triggering a lot of feelings. The observance of religious holidays is not the responsibility of the public schools. If we took that out, would the spirit of the separation of church and state be intact with the opening two paragraphs?
I'd be okay with that.
Before we motion that, Member Soroyce.
I was just thinking that when we talk about the observance of religious holidays is not the responsibility of the public schools, I'm assuming we're talking about ceremonies or observing them within the school. The homework policy, to me, is different because it's saying that homework assignments shall not be assigned on major religious observances or culturally significant dates that may reasonably interfere with the student's ability to complete schoolwork outside of school hours. I'm looking at these as two different things, and I may be wrong, but that's how I'm looking at it, that we're not going to celebrate the Ramadan holiday with some type of observance in school, but we are going to give our students with any religion the opportunity to opt out or not assigned homework on those days. I'm looking at it two separate things, but I could be wrong.
Any other?
Mr. Vice Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Willett, go ahead.
Okay, so my original premise on this, and this goes back for many years, we have an obligation as a school system, right, to fulfill a certain amount of days of instruction. Is that correct, under state law?
Yeah.
So long as our student body fulfills that obligation of instruction, either remotely or through projects or through instruction directly, so long as they fulfill all of those rigors, why aren't we accommodating religion across the board and calling it a day? Because so long as we have separation of church and state, like we're not establishing Christianity as the dominant faith in our school system. That's not on the agenda. And we accommodate the Muslim faith, which I support 100% with the prayer room. And we have organically holidays back into play because of prior school committee members like Member Maxwell and myself, right? I think we're almost home that so long as you're fulfilling the rigors of state law through instruction, and that we have at times allowed for religious observances and excused absences, so long as they fulfill the coursework at some point. And I go back to my original premise of we don't traditionally have homework assignments or projects during the Christmas break, which coincides with Hanukkah. So why not have it for all faiths? Or the fact that you don't abide by a faith, you're an atheist or a theist, right? You still have to be obligated under state law of fulfilling certain obligations. Let's say you create your own religion at some point, just as an excuse not to do homework, right? You still have to do homework and fulfill the instructional rigors under state law. Nothing would preclude that. But again, I think in this country, we respect religion observances and separation of church and state. And it goes back to the U.S. Constitution, not the state constitution, but the U.S. Constitution, which is derived from the oldest constitution, which is the Massachusetts Constitution. So that's interplayed here. So I think we're almost home. Like Member Donovan, I would say, yeah, just make sure we can try respect the separation of church and state, honor religion, but you still as a student as an obligation to fulfill the rigors of state law and the mandates of instruction and projects and homework and course assignments and completion of course work. It's all interrelated. Homework, coursework, projects, academic performance, testing, everything. Thank you.
The only thing, I just want to respond to Member Soroy's. I would agree with you, but we added holidays or observances inside the homework policy, which then immediately comes to school ceremonies and observances, because we're saying observance. That's the day off. That's the holiday week. It could be anything. And so when I look at that versus what we're saying is allowed, it doesn't add up if we're going to keep that. So now, if we're going to remove, if there's going to be a motion to remove that line, the observance of religious holidays is not the responsibility of public schools, which is what Member Donovan, it no longer contradicts what we're saying under the homework piece. In my opinion, and when I look at policies all the time, I look at the factor of it has to be a one-way street. It can't be two-way. It can't be. And I remember Methuen Public Schools, and I think we still have hallways where students do dreidels and Kwanzaa and Christmas trees or wreaths or stuff like that. I know we do that stuff still in the school system. But the day that we did deck the halls and moved it to the Winter Wonderland, like we had spirit running through the halls, and it wasn't just because it was Christmas. It was Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year. We had a lot of fun in these halls, and it's like we're draining it down here. And I get it. There's a lot of, and I'm going to say it. There's a lot of culture here. Why not all represent it during one day or 1 week a year for Deck the Halls? It doesn't have to be Deck the Halls. It could be the Winter Wonderland, and everyone gets together and celebrates a corner of their section. Barden did it. Nick did it. Juka did it. It was a different time. Come on. We still celebrate those holidays. It's just, We have more culture here. That should be celebrated. So, all set. Madam Superintendent, you want to say anything else to this, or is there a motion to remove?
No, I'll just say briefly, I think cultures are celebrated in different ways. I do remember Deck the Halls, but there's a lot of pride, and I think beyond tolerance, acceptance, and enthusiasm for learning about other cultures, which I love. To me, this IMD is more about the handling of religious holidays in a secular manner, or focusing on the secular aspects of holidays, and is just spelling out that it would be against this policy to ask that it references, for instance, like a music program. We wouldn't ask students to sing religious songs throughout a music program. That's could be considered observing or celebrating in a religious fashion a holiday that is not representative of their family, but does also allow that space to learn about each other's cultures, and celebrate that we all bring something different frame of reference to the district and the school. So I do like a lot of it. I think the observance of the religious holidays, if that's not easily interpreted by consistently by everyone on the committee, then it would likely not be interpreted the same way by our school community, and that could lead to some disagreement and misunderstanding. So I do like the idea of just taking that sentence out.
Is there a motion?
So I'll make a motion to strike the line, "The observance of religious holidays is not the responsibility of public schools."
Is there a second?
Second.
Member Royce, any discussion on it? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Okay. Member DiZoglio?
Yes.
Donovan, yes. Baez?
Yes.
Member Keegan?
Yes.
Member Soroyce?
Yes.
Member Willett?
Yes.
And Member Beauregard?
Yes.
Unanimous. All right, any other questions on this policy? Seeing none, I believe the next one was supposed to be,
Yeah, it is,
it's not in your
um,
packet.
IMDB, Pledge of Allegiance. It is not in the packet.
Correct.
Section I with changes.
Yep.
It is a printout that you should have gotten in the last or the first meeting of this review.
It's linked also separately on the agenda if you need to reference it.
Thank you. This is one that was homegrown from the subcommittee, by the way. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. Willett.
through the chair to Member Baez. So this is reflecting Supreme Court decisions that a student is not compelled to observe the Pledge of Allegiance or lead in the Pledge of Allegiance based on objections at points. Is that correct?
Yeah. There's a language in there to note the decorum of a student that is not reciting, but that is not, we're not mandating students to do so.
Okay, and that's been long-standing for decades, that Supreme Court precedent. So why is there an urgency to include it in a policy if we already have it well-known in the decades from Supreme Court precedent? Is it something that was recommended by the Massachusetts Association of School Committees? We're just shoring up? Or is it any type of teachers or staff that were compelling students? I'm just curious to make sure that, you know, I would have to look at the policy once again, but I think I understand the concept of we have a Supreme Court decision that indicates that a student is not compelled to observe the Pledge of Allegiance based on personal and moral objections.
Yeah.
Would that be the case? So we would need to just, we're protecting the constitutional rights of students who do not observe. Would that be correct?
Yeah, so the language, the specific language in there that you're referring to, Member Willett, is the district recognizes the individual rights of students choosing to refrain from participating. That's the language.
And that's been recommended by the association to us that it's a glaring error or a loophole that we need to shore up to protect those students.
So this is language that was created by the subcommittee and reviewed together with the subcommittee and MASC, yes.
Okay. So we would never have on the flip side, a teacher that would not observe the Pledge of Allegiance based on political objections or their personal interpretation, right? Organically from the students, we would respect, just like we would respect all religions or lack thereof, that it would be the students themselves based on their upbringing and religious objections. It wouldn't be the flip side that a teacher would all of a sudden, based on their interpretation of political ideology, would say, okay, we're not observing the Pledge of Allegiance in the classroom, which is a state mandate. I think a federal mandate too. But on the flip side, with the students that we don't want to observe based on religious objections, we're honoring that constitutional protection that's been reinforced by Supreme Court law. I want to make sure we're doing a balance because of this day and age.
I personally believe that the language is that we're respecting all individual rights guarantees that, Member Willett, in my personal opinion.
Okay. All right, because I go back to, again, organically, things should be originating from the parents and students and not from the staff or the administration. And I think that's a tightrope with the holidays, with the homework, with these observances, and going into this policy. So I perceive it as a commonsensical policy based on Supreme Court precedent, but I also am concerned that I don't want to have a teacher go off the reservation for political reasons and say, I decide not to observe the Pledge of Allegiance because I don't like who's the President of the United States at the current time, regardless of party. I just want to make sure that's the case. If it originates in protection of the students organically, based on their rights, I don't have a problem with that. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 3 flagpoles in each of the schools, don't we? If I recall. There's the state, there's the US flag, the prisoner of war flag, and I want to say there was the Methuen school flag originally, but now it's the state flag in some polls, because that was a requirement made by the city council, if I recall. And Mayor, you might be there. Remember that all public buildings had to have the 3 or 4 flags flying?
I think that was before my time.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Okay, so I definitely specifically mentioned to the administration, and Ian Goslin, as one of his final acts, did implement, I said, the POW flags, and Mayor Beauregard also agreed to it, that we would have the flags, the POW flags, flying at our schools outside at the Flagstaff. So that was been accomplished. That was not there prior at all of our
Maybe that's what it was then, is to make sure, yeah, POWs were in all schools.
And that's in this policy
Yeah, yeah.
presented as well.
Well, the 3rd flag isn't, which was what I was curious about. Does it matter what it is then? Is it the Mass State flag? If we're updating this, shouldn't we discuss what the 3 flags are?
Correct.
I mean,
I
Mr.
believe
Chairman.
POW is included in the new policy.
It is.
I'm sorry? I'm looking at it right now. Yeah. It has, the POW flag is displayed and the US flag. There's 3 flagpoles in each of our schools.
I see what you're saying.
And there was a policy that was put in place, I thought when we were on the council, Mayor, that required all city buildings to have 3 certain flags, but it might have been the POW flag, now that I'm thinking of it.
And this says POW flags, so are there 2 in it as well?
There's only one POW.
So we have the state
Because
flag.
it's the United States and the POW flags.
Thank you.
But we have 3 poles in all of our buildings, even in front of Branch Street, we have 3 poles now. So what's the 3rd flag?
I would defer to the committee to decide which flag we would want to raise.
Well, I think it's a rule. It's either the state flag or it's the school city flag. We're all gonna drive around now to all the schools later
We could
tonight.
just run to the window right now.
Is it right here? Is there 3 poles in front of the high school? I don't remember if there's 3 poles in front of the high school now.
May I?
Yeah.
But when we honor certain groups, one of those flags comes down,
I
correct?
think all 3 come down. I think you're supposed to
You
lower
know,
all.
when we had, I keep the St. Patrick's Day Parade, we had the Irish flag up.
At the state, at the city hall,
At
Mayor,
the
you
city
have
hall.
4 flags,
Oh, they
though.
have
4
4?
poles, right, at city hall?
Gay Pride.
I believe.
So we have 3 poles, 4 flags. Well,
Underneath.
currently, we have one for Pride.
There's one flagpole, and it has the KOW and the American flag on it, and that is it in front of the high school.
But everywhere, I know the other schools.
Mr.
have
Vice
3.
Chair,
Yeah. Yes,
Mr. Vice Chair, I would actually recommend this. We would have the United States flag and the POW flag, which is already in existence, and the state flag. I would also like to do is, based on our student population, have a separate flag of the nation of the origin of some people for cultural awareness. Because I think the mayor does that, and Lawrence does that. They'll do national origin flags
I
at
think
points and link it to cultural.
yeah, member Willett, I think that's in front of at least the city hall at the Veterans Park there, and Memorial Park. What we're talking about at the schools themselves, because I'm pretty confident that most schools have the 3 poles.
I think it's a state flag.
Is it the state flag? So should that
Just
be in
food,
here
just
as
food for
well,
thought.
as having, if we're gonna have a
Not
flag?
if the high school only has one flagpole, because then we're gonna say we have to put up more flagpoles at the high school.
You have 3 poles. You only have 2 flags here, so it's, you could do whatever you want with the 3rd pole? No,
There's
but
literally only one pole out
The
there.
high school is different. That's the only thing I would like to address.
Okay,
The Timmy, the Tenny, and the CGS that I know right off the top have the 3. I don't spend enough time at the Marsh to recall. And I know Branch Street has 3 poles. They had to add a 3rd pole, if I recall. So I wanna,
I would just, if I may, I would just say for the efficiency of time, if someone wants to make a motion to add the Massachusetts state flag,
to where it can be accommodated.
then someone can make
moved.
that motion.
I'll make the motion.
How do you want it to say, Ken, so we can make sure we got it right this time?
I think, again, automatically, based on federal and state law, we need the United States flag. The POW flag is a congressional federal law, and the state flag should be part of state law, I think. Have the 3 flags, and then I would just recommend separately, I'm gonna make that motion, is that we include our state flag.
Where possible.
Where possible, obviously, based on, budgetary constraints. I think they already accommodated the American flag and the POW flag based on existing federal and state law.
Thank
So
you.
that's been accomplished. The state flag, I think, would be in some fashion accommodated because of state law. And then I would recommend at some point, based on cultural exchange, having the flag of the nations of participating students and their families and do a cultural exchange that way. But that would just be my recommendation separately.
Yeah. Any other comments
That's
on
not,
this?
but I would make a motion to include the state flag where possible, in conjunction with the US flag and the POW flag.
I'll second that.
Yeah. Member Royce, any additional comments, concerns? If not, roll. Or
May I?
Member Baez?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm just, for clarifying, are we motioning for the subcommittee to add it in the language, or is there, I'm just concerned that there's no specific language on the actual policy on where that would go and be. Is that at the discretion of the subcommittee to add?
Can I make a friendly amendment?
Please.
That would have to be to Ken. Go ahead.
Right.
So I'm
Can-
gonna retract the original amendment, and I would have a recommendation from the full body to the subcommittee that they entertain drafting the language to include the state flag as the 3rd flag at the moment.
Ken, if I can make a
Conjunction
friendly
with-
amendment,
Okay,
amendment,
go ahead.
I would just say that on the sentence of the United States and the United States, comma, POW flag and Massachusetts state flag shall be displayed outside of each school building on an appropriate flagpole.
Okay, I'll defer to you on that.
Is
so
that
I'll second
okay?
that
All right.
motion. I'll withdraw my original motion, Mr. Chairman, and I'll second Member Soroyce's amendment, please.
All right, any other further discussion? Member Baez, are you good with that?
That's perfect. I just want a clarification.
All right, roll call, please.
No.
Yes.
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 All right, we have two more things here, animals in schools and service animals in schools. I think we can get through that pretty quickly. If we need to extend this past 9, we can, but I just want to get this going. Go ahead, moving on.
Yeah. So just for just a little bit of context, our previous policy had what MASC would recommend to be 2 different policies, which is animals in schools and service animals in schools. So we recommend the retraction of our 2 policies and the adoption of the reduction of our 1 policy and the adoption of the 2 new policies. Questions?
Anyone?
And that could be for either the IMG, animals in school, or IMGA, service animals in school. So our discussion is broader to 2 policies on this one.
Just out of curiosity, Madam Superintendent, do we have a lot of students with service animals in the school system?
Not a lot, but on occasion we do.
Yeah.
What about, oh, man,
Go ahead.
that's good. I was gonna ask, what about staff members?
Well, either or, yeah.
Not to my knowledge currently, but again,
I remember we
Could
had
happen.
students
Yeah.
with service dogs back when I
Mhm.
was in school, yeah.
So may I ask just a real quick
ahead,
question?
Member
I'm
Donovan.
sure there's a really easy answer
Yep.
to it. Well, first, out of curiosity, if you have a younger student with a service animal, who's responsible for taking the animal out to, if it has to be outside? Yes.
So a handler for a service animal must be over the age of 18. So
Okay.
there has to be an adult handler taking care of that
So
thing.
interesting.
So it's very, yeah, there are specific rules for those. So you're not going to have a young student with a service dog without a handler.
And would the handler be considered a PA, or would it be someone who worked with the student?
Typically, it's going to be the parent, honestly. So
Okay.
it's,
Oh.
so, yeah, the laws have all changed, and so, yeah.
Okay, well, it's-
You're not going to have a kindergartner being responsible
and-
for the dog.
Or the teacher
Or
being
the
responsible?
miniature horse,
or- oh,
although
yeah, the
if you
miniature
read,
horse.
if you
Okay.
read the policy, miniature horses can be service animals.
Well, I was gonna question what else could be service animals.
Yeah, well, I know miniature horses are big now. But the other question I had, where is it? If the reassignment of the person having custody and control of an animal to a different classroom, if there's an issue, if someone's having an allergic reaction. But what if what if the person with the service animal, or the student, is in a very specific program? What would we do? Would we have to provide outside services, or where you couldn't move the student and provide services? I don't know if that's addressed in here.
We would have to cross that when we got to it, because 1, it's so rare, and 2,
Yeah.
it's like such an
There,
edge case that,
I know there's a
We'd have
huge
to-
push for service animals now being hyperallergenic. So like doodles and labradoodles, they're supposed to have the hair. So like certain dogs are being bred just for service. I mean, there are certain cases that there might be a Great Dane maybe or something, but most of the progressiveness now of service animals are hair, not fur. Any other comments about this? And all right. So that, I will entertain a motion to table.
so moved.
Is there any, can there be discussions on a motion to table?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
May I?
sure.
Just for closing remarks, I'd like to thank the full committee for their continued patience because, again, an entire policy review is a huge undertaking. And I appreciate everyone's, one, patience, but two, diligence, and thoughtful conversation throughout. I will say that in terms of process and timeline, the subcommittee has met in between this meeting and our last meeting to implement the changes made in our first review. And we will likely be meeting, and hopefully, depending on when we schedule our next full committee meeting, be meeting before that to implement the changes made here, to provide the full committee with a clean copy of the changes made, a clean copy of the changes made, and a clean copy of just the language of the policies as well. And so hopefully we'll be able to have the time in between this meeting and our next scheduled meeting, depending on state numbers, of finance numbers, to be able to get that done. But again, thank you to all members. Thank you to the subcommittee, to the acting superintendent, to Alicia from MASC. This is not our final review. This is not a final vote. But again, I just want to thank everybody for their continued patience and diligence.
And before I accept the motion in a second, please get that feedback from, and Mike too. I think they should come from Mike and MASC on if we should be accepting this as individuals or as one section. Because again, I think that, I agree with 90% of this. There's a few things in here I don't, and that will sway my vote.
So in
Mr.
in
Vice
that
Chairman.
spirit, if in fact we have to do section by section, then we don't even have a first read because our first read is for the whole section.
No, well, no, not fully, because it says in the minutes here, and you wouldn't do it in section 1 with changes and section 1 clean copy. Technically, you are in section 1, and I would make the argument that everything under section 1 is what it is. Like when you go to the budget, you say it's under this and you vote for that budget line item. I would make an argument, if you read into that, this is all highlighted under section 1. So that's my, I would, and from a parliamentary perspective, I'm usually by the book. I can make an argument for that. All
We'll
right?
just, we'll
Mr.
get that,
Vice
we'll get that for
Chairman.
you.
Yep.
All right.
Mr.
All right,
Vice
so-
Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Willett.
So I agree with you 100%. That was my main objection from the prior subcommittee, is that based on my experience, this should have been divided up piecemeal, policy by policy, and divided amongst different school committee meetings. And I was like overruled on it. So I agree with you 100% that we should get that further legal advisory, because grouping significant complex policies into one omnibus package, I
Yep.
don't think flies in the character of previous school committee deliberations. So I agree with you on that, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you. Noted. We have a motion.
Mr. Vice Chair, one more point if I could.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I just wanted to thank the committee for all their work on this. I apologize for the issue we had at the last meeting. I guess it worked out to the extent that we had a bit more time than we would have had that night, but I just wanted to say thank you and apologies for the issues last time.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Vice Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I also want to just echo the Vice Chair and the Mayor that the subcommittee has been outstanding. Despite any personal reservations or objections, or how I'll ultimately vote, has nothing to do with the content of the subcommittee, their deliberations, their dedication, their work, their openness and transparency. And never we question the subcommittee, the chairman, or their work product on this. So I want that reflected for the record. Thank you.
Agreed.
Okay,
And
so,
outside of popular demand, I made a really big huff when I looked at that agenda item when we were reading it before the last meeting. So I did not realize it was not on the table. So I apologize for not noticing it on the agenda prior to get it fixed. So with that said, there was a motion and a second
right.
to table. So let's move on. We have 4 minutes to table this.
Member Keegan,
Yes.
Member McCarthy. Yes. Member Willett,
Yes.
Vice Chair DeZoglia.
Yes.
Donovan, yes. Mayor Beauregard
Yes.
and Member Baez.
Yes.
All right. Anything else for the good and welfare of the community? from
Mr. Vice Chairman, if I could.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
A very important update for the committee, considering that tomorrow is the deadline to submit items for the July 6th council meeting.
Yes, sir.
So I have been in close touch with the superintendent, and I'll invite her to chime in here regarding our funding mechanism for special ed reform. We are moving forward full steam ahead with our efforts in that regard. But I just wanted to mention that since our last meeting, I was contacted by the CEO of another organization that provides similar services that we have been discussing about engaging with Constellations to provide. And they indicated an interest in submitting potentially a bid to participate in these services. And so I've been in touch along with Dr. Golubsky and Ms. Bozak with the individual from this organization. Now, just to keep in mind, this is something that we've determined to be exempt from the 30B process. However, considering that there are now other organizations, at least one that has expressed an interest in bidding, I believe the superintendent has reached out to the Inspector General's office to confirm the exemption, and they have not heard back from the IG's office about that. So the superintendent will share this out of an abundance of caution. The plan is to go out to bid, and the thinking is that we have the funding mechanism identified. However, considering the fact that we don't have a precise amount that this would entail, my thinking, and I haven't shared this with the council chair yet, my plan is to call her about it tomorrow, to share that we may need a special meeting at some point in August, perhaps whenever we're able to line up the successful bid so we can get this done. But either way, we're moving forward. We just want to do it right. We want to protect the district from any bid challenges from any other organizations and just do it the right way. Thank you.
Excuse me, Vice
Superintendent,
Chair,
do you
I'd
have
just
anything
like to
else?
make a motion to go past 9 o'clock.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Ken, you there?
Yes.
Yes. Mayor?
Yes.
Yes.
Your mic's off, that's why they didn't hear you.
Well, they all voted
All right,
yes.
unanimous. Madam Superintendent, all yours to answer that, and I didn't want you to feel rushed.
Thank you. Just wanted to add to that our grants and procurement specialist, when she did hear back from the IG's office, they spoke to the fact that if it's direct special education services for students, there certainly is an exemption there. If it has to deal with more on the lines of staff training or consultation, then there is a bid process there. So again, to err on the side of caution, since we have a mix of both, but I would say it matches more of the latter, that it makes sense to go out for bid. So Ms. Bozak and Ms. Rosario are working on putting the specs together to be submitted this Thursday in order to go up in the register next Wednesday. And then we'll take it from there and see what we get as proposals.
And just to chime in from a process standpoint, as I mentioned previously, thank you for the clarification, Dr. Golubsky. I didn't realize that we had heard back from the IG's office. I think the caution is something that we absolutely must really try to adhere to, given the fact, especially in a place like Methuen, we've had our share of issues in the past on the city side overall with some concerns about just getting things right. And so I think given the fact that, this is a big price tag, it is a big reform, we're committed to getting it done, and we will. I think the added caution in terms of following all of the relevant laws of the Commonwealth are critical. And also, as I referenced, we'll simply accommodate the schedule, hopefully with the council, for a special meeting so we can get the funding in place. Either way, we'll get it done.
Yes. Any questions?
Mayor, I just have a question. Are you going to ask for the full amount that we originally requested and then go through the bid process and figure it out after that? Like, how is that going to work? 'Cause
So the bid, yeah, sorry to interrupt.
That's okay, I just know that you have to ask for that money by a certain time frame, correct?
No.
So no. So if it were coming out of free cash, then I would be subject to restrictions by way of making any ask for expenditures out of that account before the end of the fiscal year, which is tomorrow. However, the funding source that we're going to utilize is the city's general stabilization fund. We have available funds in there, and we're able to tap into that at any time of year. So we don't have any time constraints for the use of that fund.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Member Baez?
I just have a comment. I'd just like to thank the mayor for his commitment to this reform, for finding solutions, for being available and accessible during this process, and for thinking about the schools. I know as he's the CEO of the community as well. I'd also like to thank the mayor and his achievement for the GIC in terms of moving in regards to reform, structural reform. We were told that we were going to get structural reform this year, and in ways of different means, we have been getting them.
Yeah, I think we're in a position, Member Baez, and thank you for your continued advocacy for these reforms, of course, along with all of our colleagues on the committee and the city council too, for their support. At this point, we look at these cost drivers that really kill our budget year after year. We look at health insurance, we look at special ed, collective bargaining, certainly probably right up there in the top three in terms of cost drivers. Those are locked in, but when it comes to health insurance and special ed, those are areas that we are able to get after by way of reforms, and we've checked one off, and we'll check the second one off before the end of the summer.
All right.
Mr. Vice Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Willett.
So obviously the GIC is a huge game changer, something that I've been advocating for the last 25 years. I know the mayor has been a strong advocate for the GIC in his time as a counselor and going into the mayor's office. I know the vice chair in your capacity has been an advocate for the GIC. This is a huge accomplishment. I want to give kudos to the mayor. This is going to pay dividends long term to our fiscal stability. It's going to save jobs. It's going to benefit directly the workers with their premiums. It's going to eliminate a deficit. It's going to ensure that we have premium healthcare services. So kudos on that. The only concern I have is we have a deadline of July 4th for the tax credits for any solar panel projects. And unless the company is stockpiling and we're not aware of it, we're going to be hitting that deadline of July 4th. So I don't know, through the chair to the mayor, if we have any of the latest updates about the solar panels, if we're landing that plane. I appreciate any feedback.
Sure, and thank you for the prompt, Member Willett. So there was a time several months back where I believe the school committee authorized the city by way of a vote to proceed with an engagement with Select Energy, or at least in a company to provide these solar panel services to us. And so we're in a position now where we have a finalized contract with Select to install solar panels on the roofs of the Tenny and the CGS. And that contract, it will be on the July 6th agenda. The company that we're working with, they are one of the largest providers of these services for municipalities throughout the Commonwealth, and they shared with us that if we're able to get this approved on July 6th, we are in good shape to take advantage of the available savings for the city now and in the long term. And so they've been great to work with, and they are ready to hit the ground running. And so that contract will be submitted to Chair Soto and the council tomorrow morning.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, on that, to the city council. The second thing, too, in addition to the GIC and to the solar panels, is actually be the third thing. The cameras on the school buses, where is that right now?
So that is in the process of going out to bid, given the fact that we've been dealing with health insurance and trying to really ramp up things with solar and get that done in time. The school bus stop arm cameras haven't exactly been number one on the list, but now that we are moving towards addressing the solar issue, but also beyond that, helping to tackle these other areas, we're able to get that out to bid as well. And so we have a lot of other excitement. Trying to talk too fast. We have a lot of other exciting things in the works as well that will certainly be in the mix as we roll those things out.
And I think, and you can enlighten me on this as well and confirm it. I think the city of Peabody, once they initiated that cameras on the buses, the extended arm, I think within a brief period of time, they had about 850 violations that went right into the coffers of the city, which would help their schools. And I think that something similar to Methuen would be happening. And I know I've been advocating for that for a long period of time, Chairwoman Soto and yourself. So I appreciate the update. The only thing else I would add is that I have legislation in the Senate working with the senator is to double the fines in school zones. And if we could land that plane as well, so anybody who wants to send a letter or an email to the Senate or to the House delegation on the legislation, it would be in fact doubling the fines in school zones. And I think that would be another added value resource to us to add maybe back channel to improve services in our schools. So I would encourage people to do that. In terms of the school choice, again, just briefly, I respect the process. We will have our legal advisories. I respect the superintendent and the mayor and Member Baez and the vice chair. I want to reflect that. I do not want to rush the process. I'm a big advocate for the law, and we'll have our legal advisories, but I'll be there anytime if we need to have special meetings. If it comes back to us that we can have a waiver, I will meet anytime. And then always the offer's on the table, Mr. Mayor. If you feel, and you get a lot on your plate, and I do appreciate everything you've done, and like Member Baez indicated, we're now starting to crank up structural reforms, which is fantastic. That's what we've been elected to do, is to save jobs and to improve services within our school system and to conduct reforms. If there's any time that you feel you can bring forward a proposal, I will meet any time during the summer, even if it's through Zoom, to give you that mandate. I just want to reflect that for the record. Thank you, everyone.
I have one other update, if I could, Vice Chair.
Sure, Mayor, there's a line here now. So
Sure.
you're
So,
good. Go ahead.
Real quick. So also on the agenda for July 6th will be the city's official surplus of 3 city-owned properties, 33 Railroad Street, which is a parcel of land over by Thwaites Market, and the Gill Avenue splash pad, that neck of the woods. And then, of course, we have the PV and Courier schools. We're finally moving on those. My goal is to redevelop all 3 properties into housing for especially seniors, veterans in the community, but also just working families in general, that we're kind of keeping it open in terms of the various groups that we would try to target the housing towards, given the fact that they're in 3 unique locations, but certainly really honing in on seniors and veterans as 2 populations that we want to expand housing opportunities for at the local level for low and moderate income folks. So those will be officially surplused, hopefully with the will of the council and their support at the next meeting. And then beyond that, as we've already discussed, my intent is to direct the funds from the sale of the PV and Courier School to capital upgrades for our school buildings. Generally speaking, whenever you sell municipal property, the revenue has to be utilized for the purpose of capital upgrades. So, of course, we would direct that to the schools. So we have a couple other really exciting things that I'm not going to share tonight. We'll share at the council meeting, but just wanted to mention that as well, since that involves the school committee. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chairman.
Mr. Willett, there's a few people ahead of you right now.
Okay, I'll do.
So, Member Donovan
Thank you.
first.
Just, I know we understand that tomorrow's Wednesday, we might
Tomorrow's
have,
Tuesday.
okay, Wednesday, we might have a final vote on the budget. It might hopefully go quickly to the governor, to the superintendent. Are we ready to try to let our staff know about their employment status as soon as we have some confirmation? And obviously, we're going to have to meet.
Yes, there's still some question in the air as to what that means
Yeah.
for us. So we have been notifying staff of changes. We've had a couple of resignations and have already made some calls to bring people back and readjust and switch between schools. So we're moving as quickly as we can. And I think certainly by the start of next week, we'll be in full swing with that, assuming that Wednesday
Is the day.
is the day in the vote. Thursday, we'll have some time to get our ducks in a row. We are interviewing for the assistant superintendent of finance this week as well. And then there's the holiday Friday. So start of next week, I think, would be reasonable for people to start hearing.
Because I know there's a lot of, I've heard from a lot of staff wondering what's happening. And, you know, nobody knows yet. And we
No.
don't know the exact amount. But, okay,
Right.
I just wanted to get that out there. I appreciate the time. I know time is, the clock is
We
ticking.
got plenty of time. We got 45 minutes.
45 minutes.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Member Royce.
I just want to double check what you just said about resignations. Those resignations are coming from teachers that were given pink slips at the end of the year?
Those resignations, no, are coming from teachers who were otherwise employed
Oh, really?
and have created a spot for somebody else.
Okay, thank you.
Member Willett?
Yeah, so this is a technical thing because I haven't been on the city council for quite a few years. We talk about the free cash versus the stabilization fund. In light of the restrictions on free cash, but the stabilization fund, and in light of January going into the GIC and starting to incur savings, is there any possibility at all, once we know the final numbers from the state on the conference report about the final layoffs, is there any possibility of being able to tap into the stabilization fund, understanding that in January the GIC will usher in savings for the district and for the community as a whole? Is there any possibility of entertaining that, or it's advised against us by Massachusetts Municipal Association? I would just recommend just some feedback from the mayor on that. I'll defer to him, obviously.
Sure. So one of the things that I'm trying to balance when it comes to our reserves is that, you know, something that we need to keep in mind every couple of months. You know, we're in touch with S&P Global Ratings, Standard & Poor's, you might recall, Member Willett, the bond rating agencies. And so one of the things that we want to keep tabs on is, you know, trying to watch our burn rate when it comes to the use of reserves, simply because that could potentially, if we were to go, you know, a little too far overboard with drawdowns in any one year, and we've been pretty excessive this year. The one concern is we don't want that to amount to a red flag for the bond rating agencies. And so, you know, I'm hesitant to commit to any further use of stabilization beyond the concept of utilizing it for a major structural reform like special ed. I think that ultimately we're going to be hopefully ending the calendar year with having tackled health insurance, having tackled special ed. These are two very big areas, and we'll still have north of $10 million in reserves. If you were to kind of look at the sum of that equation, you know, I think that that is a very good result when you look at how we're taking some major structural issues off the table, major risks, we're taking it completely away, and we are using those funds to invest in our future, invest in reforms that will allow us to be in a stronger position. I think if I were S&P, I would rather see a city tackling the structural issues that they're having from a fiscal standpoint instead of having, say, all of these huge liabilities looming out in the distance and having $20 million in reserves, because that can go away in an instant. But at the same time, you know, I want to balance that. But with that being said, something that we are sorting out on the finance side in City Hall is the fact that with the switch to the GIC, we've identified unexpectedly $1.5 million in savings in fiscal year 27 due to the fact that our stop loss coverage with Blue Cross is now going to be ending in January. We had budgeted a full year for that. So now that we're only going to have to utilize half a year, that's automatically, literally at just the stroke of a pen, generating 1.5 million in savings for us. We want to identify exactly, what that means in the context of the broader budget, whether we can try to move things around to apply that to, helping with the schools, helping in other areas. So certainly not a settled conversation. We're trying to figure out exactly what that means in the broader context when it comes to the budget. But there are immediate savings that we saw when that agreement was reached last week that could potentially be consequential, but unsettled at this point.
And fair enough, Mr. Mayor. And again, I am fiscally conservative. And we have to emphasize the bond rating is very important in terms of if we do any projects down the line as a community, we need to have a strong bond rating. And if we have any emergency situations or a sudden downturn in the economy, we also want to save police, fire, DPW, and the vast majority of our teachers. We don't want to go into a great recession and then have to really exhaust every option. So I appreciate the insight. Again, I hope we can, based on the fact that we're doing the GIC, the solar panels, likely the school buses, constellations or a variation of constellations, maybe school choice. And again, I'm on board with that in the interest of structural reforms. If there's any consolidation you want to entertain going into the remainder of our year, going into the next fiscal year, I'm on board with that. So I appreciate the update. I just hope that the city council will work with you because again, the GIC, based on the healthcare analysis and the millions and millions of dollars, far exceeding what my estimate would be going forward in the savings to the workers, the elimination of the deficit, the elimination of the structural deficit, working with our state partners. I just hope that there's greater insight of really trying to save jobs because the last few years we've had to really just piecemeal cut dozens of workers, and I don't think it's conducive long term to a school system. And we're talking about literacy and discipline, custodians and teacher ranks, and I think we really have to adjust the ship as much as we can. So I appreciate everything. And I'm there, Mr. Mayor, for any further structural reforms along with my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do you have anything else on your end? If not, we have one more statement from Member Keegan.
No, that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Keegan.
I had mentioned this to our finance subcommittee, but I would like to get a meeting on the books, especially in light of the GIC, so that we can really take a look at that chargeback agreement that's been being worked on by Maggie since January. And if we can get that back and really take a good look at that and see if we can get those chargebacks under control. Thanks.
We've been talking about chargebacks for 15 years in this committee.
Yeah, we can make a meeting happen.
I'd like to make a motion.
I have one comment. Well, I waited the whole time. I know Ian's last day is coming up in the next 2 weeks. I know there are a few RFP requests that we put out, one for a consultant to do the redistricting potentially. He said he would look into it. And then there were a few other comments that were brought up over the last few weeks, but we didn't have the whole committee together. One was, remember Keegan's discussion about the former administration building and turning it over to the city. I do want to get that back on the agenda to have the conversation. And then the last thing is I would like, maybe at the beginning of the year, not now, but beginning of the school year, I would like to recognize the retirees. I think that's something we used to do back in the day. I would like to start doing that again, having the retirees, and even if they don't want to come, it's more of a recognition. They're here for the beginning of the meeting, congratulate them, wish them best, but again, no obligation at that point. With that, let's be mindful of the holiday schedule this week. If anyone wants to schedule a meeting for next week, make sure it gets in by Thursday, if it was to be a Wednesday meeting, or Monday for a Thursday meeting. That's all that I have to ask. And we have the schedule for it. But if it has to wait until the following week, let's make sure we have everything so we make one meeting in July instead of several special meetings, okay?
I make a motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Second.
Second to Ms. Keegan. Roll call, please.
Keegan,
Yes.
McCarthy,
Yes.
Willett,
Yes.
DeZoglia.
Yes.
Donovan, yes. Beauregard,
Yes.
and Bias.
Yes.
So it is 9:22.
This meeting is adjourned.
Good night, Methuen.